It is Go Skateboarding Day, National Go Skateboarding Day, June 21st. Had the best day ever today. Best day in a long time.
Don't the hippies like the June 21st thing too? For what is it? Oh yeah, the days get shorter now for the rest of the year.
Well, it's
first day of summer.
It's the first day of summer, but it's the longest. Isn't it the longest day today?
I think it's the longest day. It's the first day of our summer because it's been the weather in the west coast of Canada has been equal to that of Frobisher Bay. So we pay a lot of money to live out here on the coast, and it's been ugly.
Who's that voice? You're wondering who's that voice? This is okay. So this is the very first episode, and I wanted to do it because it's National Go Skateboarding Day, and it's my pleasure to have my long time friend who got me really heavily into skateboarding, Dustin. I'll just say your first name.
Don't tell these guys I was a BMXer first.
Okay, well let's start with that. Okay, and make sure Dustin. Yep. Anybody who knows Dustin out there knows that it's hard for him to sit down for any length of time, which makes a great tattooer. I need you to make sure you're close to the microphone. Don't go running across the room or anything.
Yeah, no worries.
So, happy National Go Skateboarding Day, Dustin. Thank you for a fucking awesome day.
Thanks for having me out.
We went skateboarding today.
All over the place.
Let's just start with that. Where did we go skate? In Victoria, BC.
Well, we wanted to go skate the new Sydney Park. We wanted to skate the new Sydney because it's just been built, but it's a kind of a drive right now, and Vic West is just as close, which is also new, so that's a tough call, man. We got two brand new skate parks that are amazing. They got rid of the old Sydney one, whereas Vic West, they just added on to the old park, so you got two new extensions that, after an hour there, you're pretty tired, so besides skating the new stuff, went to some areas that were old, too, that are still taking the test of time.
We actually started today after Vic West. We hit up the reservoir. We stopped by there to plant flowers.
Yeah,
and take a whiz.
Seriously, unknown areas that used to be. I mean, those are spots that we skated 20 years ago. There wasn't a park yet, so you skated whatever you can get your hands on. The reservoir. I guess what happened one day.
Okay, so it was 1986. Here's a little story. We got some photos and video to go along with it, but it was 1987, and you tell the story. You tell the story.
Well, this typical teenager's going up there, and one of the guys got his driver's license ahead of the rest of us. Obviously, we won't say who that was, Mark Morrison, but it was just one of those things. We drive around all over the place doing silly crap in the car. We drove up to the reservoir today, probably to do something illegal that 18-year-olds would do, involving either smoking some substance or drinking alcohol that we'd stolen from our parents, Coors Light or a bottle of Cinzano, Beauty. And we drove up there one day, though, because that's what you did. It was out of the middle of everywhere. It was an old reservoir up in the middle of nowhere. We went up there and the thing was empty. We're like, what the... How deep was that thing? 60 feet deep?
It was about 60 feet deep.
With angled corners in a corner carving area, and these big buttresses in the middle that came down. You could actually drop in on them. So that was something else.
So that place was, I want to call it, I want to say it was like fucking Thunderdome.
That was crazy.
It was like Thunderdome.
It only lasted a week. So I think you skated it. So Ian O'Gorman was there. AJ Williamson was there. Daniel Weisenberger was there. Bruce Pegler had skated it. Mark Morrison had skated it. Gorman had skated it.
A lot of the Gordon Head guys, because
Chris McQueen lived right across the street with his parents, so he'd go there too. Those guys were they were getting out of it at that point. So, but they'd still go do missions like that and skate some of the scarier stuff. Ramps were starting to show up in parks. So by 1987, I'm pretty sure the start of the ramp ranch was starting to happen, and there was some just bigger stuff starting to happen. So guys weren't as into doing the guerrilla missions in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. With Gordo, it was still all about hitting you, Vic. Like today when you went to the banks there, let's change the name of those to the Finnerty Banks, we'll call them, because the old name was very politically incorrect. Cannot actually say on the radio.
You said it like 8 times today, though.
What?
The politically incorrect name.
Yeah, the politically incorrect banks.
If you're looking for them and you're in Gordon Head and you're trying to find these banks to skate, just tell people they're the politically incorrect banks.
And these are mellow banks. These aren't the kind of banks where you're going to go up and wipe out and hurt yourself on. These are the banks where you got to go and throw down a rad carve.
I got a couple of good tricks on that.
You got to touch the ground. Like those jerks in Dogtown on the Z-Boys talking about feeling everything, man. I'm surprised I didn't get arrested for feeling.
we actually, that's a spot where you have to kind of feel it, or else you're going to get bored.
Yeah, it's fun. And these are spots where you skate for 6 minutes and then kind of move on, right? You don't
we do.
But when we were kids, I mean, it's like those guys talking about little CJ Collins, who we love, and he skates from 7 till 10 at night. Your parents would go, where are you going? And I go, no, me and Pete Lemke, we're going to go to UVic today, Dad. We'd leave at 9 in the morning and eat a eat a bag of crinkle cut fries for lunch at noon and skate there till 5 at night. You know, until you couldn't even skate anymore.
You'd come home covered in blood.
Yeah, and you'd hold your hand on your calf when you were skating. You put your hand on your thigh when you were pushing because your legs were so freaking shot that you could barely skate home. So, and you come home on your bag, man. My dad thought I was on acid because I was just looking up at the ceiling. I was tired. What do you just want to go up and do the same thing the next day, even if you're like. You go to soccer school and you get up and it sucks because you can't walk the next day. You don't want to go to soccer school. Skateboarding, you get up the next day and you can't fucking walk. You're like, yeah, I'm in. So it's a bit different, I think. Back then, your body could last. You could skate all these places in one day. You go to UVic, so you go to UVic, you hit the planters, you hit the drop-offs or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else you hit at UVic.
Okay, hold up. We're getting ahead of ourselves here. Okay, so we started at Vic West. Then we rolled over we went up to the reservoir.
Yeah,
we tanned a doob. We talked about the reservoir. We took some photos, and then we rolled over to what spot did we go to next?
We went to North Derry Road, just at the corner of Cedar Hill and North Derry, to where the old parking lot still exists to what was once the Saanich Skatewave.
Right.
The skateboard park that was built there, I think, by 1978. It was built by like rich business owner guys who didn't know a fucking thing about boarding.
So,
if you talk to any of the old guys that rode it, like say Mark Greeley or Craig Hall or Harry Havada or Graham McLean or any one of those guys, will tell you, Steve Samby, that didn't really have flat bottom. It barely had coping. The reason I'm saying this is because I didn't fucking skateboard back then. I rode a BMX there.
Right.
And because it had been closed. By the time I started going there, it would have been 1981, and I wasn't skateboarding yet. I was BMXing still, so we take our bikes there. But it was scary. I remember the one bowl we called it the spoon bowl, so it was a giant half pipe going into a 13 or 12 foot bowl, with vert. It's serious vert. No coping. We called it noping. And then you had the flat bottom that had no flat. So it was like it was scary crap. And we whip around there on our bikes. Some kid dropped in on a supercross bike or something like that, and I think he turned 2 of his testicles into 4 testicles. His dad got involved, and they closed that shit down.
Yeah, that's what I always heard. I mean,
1982.
It was a legend because I didn't start skateboarding until 85.
I wasn't there when it happened. I wasn't there when it got bulldozed. Everyone says that they saw this bowl get crushed. Everyone says that the Twisted Minds got crushed and that the spoon bowl is under the ground still, which is a load of shit.
Of course it's a load of
30
shit.
40 years under the ground would have crushed those bowls. They're probably eroded.
It isn't. It's not fucking Atlantis.
I've heard 9 guys say over the years, let's dig that up. It's like, good luck with that.
I know, someone's always got to spout that off. Man, let's just go, why don't we just roll down to the corner of Cook Street
I got a couple buddies out there, though, who've got a bit of a problem with the methamphetamine these days. You give them a couple of forks and some spoons, and maybe they get at it. But
I'll have it done by lunch.
Yeah, hey, boss, I'll have it done tomorrow. But that being said, those are horrible transitions compared to the shit we skate now. You guys you ride Six Side or you ride Vic West, you're gonna drop into that place and laugh at it because it was bad.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, we talked about Skatewave. What about the McDonald Park or the oldest Esquimalt Park? Do you remember that?
I never got to go there, but I saw pictures of it.
I didn't skate it, but I rode my bike in it.
Yeah.
And I remember it being terrifying.
It was badass. That was a snake run that had no flat that went almost a vert.
Because I was a Vic West dirtbag.
Yeah. There's footage, I think, out there. If you talk to Ricky Long from Victoria here, and they know some guy named Madman, one of the original, like, these guys were the...
Well, I got footage of it.
Yeah, the original Buttocks Boys gang and that would predate, like, this is old school skating.
They got was a funding from the NFB, the National Film Board, and they shot a actual film on, like, Super 8 or whatever, or 16 mil. And they shot, and it was this really cool kind of Z-Boys thing. Everyone was in short shorts and ganitas and fucking and like sweat pads, that would actually tear your knee off. Like,
I don't know why you guys wear volleyball pads.
Volleyball pads.
I don't know why it took until 19.
And little tiny planks that they made themselves. It showed them making their own skateboards. Yeah. And this was like Victoria's version of Dogtown and Z-Boys. When I saw the footage,
just as early, that's why it's upsetting, right? When guys like when you hear, it was Chris Miller was awesome when I heard him on Love Letters talking about when were those guys down in Venice Beach wiggling around on the ground? To hear that out of Chris Miller, who's probably the best guy in skateboarding.
Oh yeah, he's still so good. He's still so good.
He's doing tricks his kids can't do, and they're having bets, and he wins. He kind of bowed down this year and let Lance win the Pro Classic at the Vance Pool Complex.
He's so smooth still.
So Miller can say something like that, and it is funny too. But there were guys before, just at the same time as the Dogtown. They can't say they were the first because there was surfers here. There was fucking draft dodgers skipping the California and coming up here and surfing in the 70s. And you can't fucking tell me that none of those guys weren't skateboarding off the fucking side.
All right, Dustin's walked away. This is his first walk away. Like I said, this has been the first day in probably, I don't know. I'm going to say 10 fucking years that I actually went out with one of my bros and skated more than one spot. Like, it's pathetic. What was that? What was the quote that Lance Mountain said? You're not old because you can't skateboard anymore because you're old. You
didn't quit skateboarding because you got old. You got old because you quit skateboarding.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. And you know what? You know, if you have injuries and stuff like that, I get it because I have injuries. But true story. If you're just rolling around, like we were talking about Dave
Brown from
Dave Brown.
Laughing Stock. If you out there, Dave's a great guy. Dave owns he runs Smart Device Skateboards out of Kelowna. If he's listening,
Smarter Device, yeah. So
great guy. I just got a board of his with a local artist from Victoria, Colin McRae, did the artwork. It's beautiful. He
has the philosophy, right? We're not flipping your boards. We're not trying to do fucking big pops.
Man. Yeah,
I just want to stay on my board.
Watch him carve the park up. It's crazy. Like he's a madman, but his board doesn't leave the cement and he doesn't get hurt.
Okay, so where else did we skate today?
We looked at the Cedar Hill Skate Wave, right?
Yep.
And there's a lot of Gordon Head's always been known for secret spots, so everybody knows of they don't, but I put it on Facebook a few times, which is kind of like blabbing, but if you guys know where the Henderson Park Golf Course is, across the street there's a dog walk park called Mystic Vale. Inside of Mystic Vale, above the old pump house, there's a mini sort of cement quarter pipe grinder thing. It's another one of those skate spots. It's fun for about 10 minutes, man. I'm no street skater. I never even learned how to do an ollie yet, for Christ's sake. So it's just good to dork around on. And when we think about dorking around, Jake had just said Lance Mountain, and one of the key places we always think about is watching those guys doing shit at Sadlands when we were younger. And that was, you watch Neil Blender skate a 14-foot vert ramp and do a lean to tail, and then you'd watch him at Sadlands just do a dorky fucking fakey rock and roll, and that was just as cool because we could do that.
Yeah.
And we're watching the best pros that we looked up to do dorky stuff like that.
And I'm really stoked now that skateboarding is going through a big phase of where everything's really, really, really open. It's all about creativity. It's all about fun. Yeah. And there's no like, yeah, you know what? A Benihana looks pretty dumb.
Not when Tom Shar fucking does it.
Exactly, right? And not when someone, there's all, and again, just do your fucking skateboarding. Skateboard for yourself. Don't ever let somebody tell you can't do a certain trick.
Yeah, I've had guys tell me layback airs are gay. I'm like, yeah, let's see you do one.
Just do it fast and gnarly and fucking flowing and own it. Yeah. I hate that term.
The thing you're gonna experience too with skateboarding is that a lot of guys came into skateboarding because they were getting fucked around in other sports and hockey. I was the smallest guy on my hockey team. It was not fun. These guys were great guys, but there was still that vibe the whole time that I was going to get smoked any minute, but by even my own teammates, right? You never knew what the hell was going to happen. So once you get into skateboarding, you're kind of damaged goods. You've been at a high school with a bunch of preppy jerks wearing U2. Dude, a guy with a U2 shirt told me I was gay because I was wearing a suicidal shirt. So that's the kind of thing. That's the kind of thing we were coming out of. And
yeah.
So I mean, we were already kind of really.
And where's that guy right now, eh?
Oh, we get along. It's all good.
Oh, you can see. He's your fucking he's your accountant.
Yeah, but it's all good. But because so we go in kind of jaded in the first place, so it was harder to get along with some of the skater guys. So everyone's gonna bitch about everything. This trick sucks. Those clothes suck. You're wearing those shoes. Those are gay. Don't wear Airwalk. Wear Vans.
And now you got guys.
Guys were having seizures last week because I was running gull-wing trucks. Man, I've been skating since I was 14. I'm 46. Guys who ride like. Man, guys who ride penny boards around are busting my balls because I'm riding gull-wing trucks. Thanks again, Matt Skate, by the way. Props to the Baku boys and to Ben Schroeder and the Godoys gull-wing army. So, anyways,
so he's switched allegiance. Yeah, I've always ridden
I'm not saying that. And Navarrete said Navarrete said it the best when he said he's ridden every kind of truck so he can ride what he likes. Because he tried, I've tried trackers, I've tried ventures.
Dude, again, like I said, if it doesn't matter if you're.
And I'm the cheapest guy on the planet. They were free. I traded them for a part of it was a tip for a tattoo. So, and they would look so cool. They were on my wall, and I said I got to ride these. And I dropped in and did an axle stall for the first time in 20 years, and I hadn't landed one for a while. I was just too chicken to do it, but it worked, and it just worked, man. So, they made me want to skate more that week. So. Also, the next spot we hit after that, though, dude, we went to Mystic Vale.
Yeah, where'd we go?
We went down to Cadbury Bay. We were going to skate these new skate rocks that Buddy made when they were rebuilding the Octopus. These guys strategically placed about 4 rocks down there. If you guys look, it's like a blast ramp. After that, we went and scoped out the Queen Alexandra property there, where the nuns are, the Sisters of St. Anne's Academy in there. We were trying to see if the pool was empty, but it's not. So then we went to the banks there that put a clear.
See, we even went on a pool scope. We even tried to check out a pool. That's how gnarly we were today.
Yeah, we were out of hand.
It's fucking totally out of hand.
My
Two
wife's like,
46-year-old
Our
guys.
wife thought we were using drugs at 10 this morning because
Yeah.
we were still...
It's true. Why are you guys having such a good time? Why are you up at 9?
Yeah.
Like, well, because it's Go Skateboarding Day, Mom. I mean,
we decided we were going to do this a while ago. We said we were going to skate the Parksville Bowl. The other one too. Moving off course.
You gotta look back this way, Dustin. You can't keep standing away from the microphone.
I'm bad for that. So when we left the politically correct banks, they used to be called the retard banks. Anyways, we don't have to.
Okay, let's talk about the politically incorrect banks. And how rad that was.
Oh, it was amazing because you got the nice view of the water. But we already did we had to lay low, right? So you're down by the water there. Like I said, you can see Arbutus Cove, which is a prime skimboarding spot, which is super fun if you're not one of these news guys doing it, right? So, and remember, if you're skimboarding, you're not fucking surfing, okay? But anyways, it's super fun.
Exactly. So is there people out there that are like that? That are like, I got a skimboard, so I'm basically like Kelly Slater.
No, we were like, there's some wicked skimboarder surfers.
I'm sure there are, but you're not surfing.
No, I know, man. So it's
you just said it.
I know. I'm just being a.
So what? You're a skimboarder.
Yeah, I'm an offender, man. I got a kayak.
But you don't go around tell people you're surfing.
No, fuck no. I'm not even a surfer. I'm a kook, man. I've gotten up like 4 times in my life. I was that kid who went surfing once. Like I went boogie boarding and bought a Rip Curl shirt and told dudes I surfed. And then when I actually dropped it on a wave for the first time, man, I got housed.
But you tried.
It was fun.
You used to go up with Jono and
we
Shad
go all the time,
and
man. Sporticus got into it and taught us how to surf, and all the like Raph Bruweiler and his brother Sepp Bruweiler. Those guys were nice. You know, they're status now.
That's man, because you guys had street cred though. You
fun.
rolled up there. You guys we were in bands.
It was crazy. You know, the van would pump out playing the Ghetto Boys. Fucking 9 chicks with
it wasn't like some fucking private school kid coming by, right? It wasn't like a private school guy or somebody from Victoria that was like a total knob.
If you had a Toyota, you drove your Toyota in the bush. It wasn't like you see these chicks with what's the deal with those half toques? I think it's the thing with gravity and Tofino. If you put a toque on your head, man, it like droops halfway off your head and hangs on the back of your shit leg, right? So it's like a toque basket head thing.
A toque basket.
Yeah, Toquefino.
I don't know.
They call it Tough City, right?
Yeah, right. But just because it's tough.
Everyone I've ever met from up there, I've really offended. So I kind of stick to the.
Yeah, but that's pretty much commonplace wherever you go.
All right. But yeah, props again to the Bruwellers for they were really into that stuff back up there. There was great places. Tofino had one of the first sort of a weird sort of bank thing that went down to a snake run. We called it the Road to Nowhere, and it had no bowl. So
that was actually a little bit of a blast from the past. Okay, so as far as how the skateboard parks were built on the island, let's take a little.
Back then.
Well, but let's talk about how they came. Okay, so aside from Skate Wave and the McDonald Park by Schwam, let's talk. The first ever concrete skateboard park ever was Nanaimo.
Yeah, it was good. They kind of did it wrong.
They did it horrible.
I did it, but someone showed me a trick you got to do up there. When you go up there and you do this weird slide turn.
Tell that to Leaf. Tell that to Sid. Those guys ripped the shit out of that place, right?
And they got lines dialed. So.
They had lines dialed. Because look, I will always say this, okay? That was a piece of shit because it was a travesty that the city paid money for somebody who never, ever made a skateboard park before.
They did it, though. And they got the ball rolling.
They did get the ball rolling. The thing is about skateboarding is that if you were cruising through the fucking middle of nowhere and you found that in the woods somewhere, would you complain? You would never complain. You'd go, I'm going to skate this till forever.
It's so funny.
Right?
Yeah.
You would skate that forever.
Yeah.
If we found that in some old man's backyard in James Bay.
And Kim Kinnikin, if you're listening, Spark Marker played there, and that's where Mark Morrison got in a fight. And after the fight, he was walking around like he was the champ, and the dude's old lady punched him right in the mouth. So that really happened. So that was a great part.
Hey, listen, we're coming out swinging here on Take Warning, the very, very, very first episode, the very first podcast.
On National Skateboarding Day.
National Skateboarding Day.
So we're taking the solstice back from the hippies, and we're having it's National Skateboarding Day. So anything you see where they're celebrating on a beach or they're lighting fires, there's drums, it's for National Skateboarding Day. The hippies can't have it.
We are off the fucking rails here, and that's going to happen, and hopefully that's why people are listening to this show, because I don't want to censor anybody. I don't want to edit too much. I want this to be free form.
Well, I'm putting a filter on it too, you guys. Anyone who knows.
Well, yeah, you're being respectful because it's my show too, I think, right? Because we go way back. Let's go way back. I'm going to tell people the first time I ever met Dustin Schwam. Doug Holloway and I, we were View Royal skaters, so there's nothing to skate out there except a gas station. okay, and a couple little banks at Shoreline, which were really cool, actually.
Those were great banks.
Those were great banks. So actually, we were quite lucky. We had one good spot out there. But you had to come into the town, take about 45 minutes, half an hour to get all the way to James Bay. Gorman had a skate shop down in Beacon Hill area.
That was 40. You got to remember, I'm on the opposite end, so I'm at UVic.
Yeah, so he's in Gordon Head. So Dustin's in Gordon Head.
40 minutes
We're
away
basically on the other side of the fucking planet.
Oh,
okay?
it was another continent.
Okay, and
immediately we were like rockers out there.
You guys were total heshers.
It was jocker, like jock rocker.
What were we? Doug and I.
Shoreline was rocker at school too, though. So
we were total rockers, but Doug and I were not rockers. We were surrounded by rockers and of native reserve, of course. There.
That's why we got on skateboards immediately.
Thank you, my good friend Ray Forsberg, for befriending me at an early age and not beating the shit out of me on a regular basis. Love you, Ray, and Ray Jack, of course.
Well, the music helped me, man, because of where I grew up.
Okay, so here we go. I gotta stay on topic here.
No,
so I roll into Strictly Skates with my good friend Doug Holloway, and the first thing that I smell is fish and chips and dank weed. Okay, so this is the first ever skater run skate shop. I'd been to PD's. Okay, but it was even descent. That was even cleaner than this. This was cleaner than
Strictly Skates was not a shop. Okay,
it was better than.
It was the side of some old lady's house in James Bay, off the main strip though, right across from where Pick-a-Flick would be. But
yeah,
you walked in the door there, man, and like it was weed, and there was like a.
Okay, so I
go in there. There was a picture of Carlos on the wall with a knife stuck through it, man.
Okay, this was hardcore.
One Skull Skates banner.
It was hardcore. Yeah, we have 4 skateboards.
Motobilt, 2 sets of Motobilt.
2 sets of Motobilt.
Some Alva rocks that the R's have been scratched out, so it said Alva Fox.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing to buy. His first shop was called Lestrada Cycle, and that was an early Victoria skate shop up on 4th Street across from Freddy the Freeloaders, where I think it's a beauty place with some shit like that. There's a Subway in there. But it was a bicycle store called Lestrada Cycles, where Ian O'Gorman and a guy named Ryan sold skateboard stuff at first out of a trunk of a car. Then they got it up onto the wall. I bought an Alva there. So it was a kind of a cool shop.
That was the first board that I actually ever had, was an Alva Dolphin with independent 215s and PP3s. Let me finish my story.
Oh, yeah, fuck.
Okay? I went in there. You have to do this. You have to do this to Dustin, or else you'll never, and that's why we're doing the first episode, because there isn't going to be a dull moment on this show. And believe it or not,
he's still in shit like he was back then when he went to that skate shop. So we got to finish the story, because he's got to be on the fucking last bus back to Shoreline, just like in 1987, the pussy. So
okay, no, man, get your own podcast.
One of those nights you scraped your face with a skateboard grip tape.
Okay, let me. I'm gonna fucking tell the rest. Can I tell the rest of the story? Okay, I'm gonna shut up soon so Dustin can continue to talk. I walked into Strictly Skates. The next thing I know, you turn to me and Doug and you're like, "Do you want to come skate with us?" And no one had ever done, like, we tried to hang out downtown a little bit, but you were the first dude who, like, you looked gnarly compared to all the people that we knew, right? And then Mark Morrison's hanging out with you, who was like 27 back in fucking 1986, right? I told him, I said, "You've been 27 since I met you," and he's like, "Shut up, Jake." Or something. Shut up, Jake. Something like that. Anyway, so you said, "Come and skate Beacon Hill, the kiddie pool." I mean, it doesn't get any lamer, right? We fucking shredded it, because you had to look out for pine cones and the concrete was all rough.
In the first videos, we like this. You got to tell these guys too that this is the first year or two of the video, so we're seeing for the first time the Bones Brigade video show.
Mm-hmm.
A fucking movie called Skate Vision. As much of a jerk as Gator is, at the opening scene, he's skating down the road.
Yeah, he's a jerk.
Oh, you think? He's not even a human. But anyways, he's skating down the road, doing those tricks at the start in a jean vest. They're playing Agent Orange. How rad is that?
Gator was.
We can all do those tricks.
We all know Gator was the shit.
I saw Jeremy Plotnikoff do that slide right, like Gator, right in front of whatchamacallit, Ocean Wind there. So that was kind of cool, and I was like, yeah, that's rad. Well, so you watch the videos and try those tricks. So going to the kiddie pool there, it's like, hey, let's try to do it. Try to do backside bonuses, and you guys are doing this and that.
Yeah, you do some burts.
The
you
big
can do
thing
a
of the kiddie pool
couple.
Is getting up and doing that cool grind.
Well, then we put the benches. Then we pushed the benches.
Every guy I know who did the grinds on that kiddie pool ended up learning how to do a Smith grind on vert.
This was the first time that I ever skated with dudes from another part of the city that I didn't really know, and you guys had patches on your jackets and everything. You guys were like super. Totally. Well, you didn't know. Listen, you didn't have. There was no colors yet. There was no 4Q. There was no Jack's team. This
We
was
still weren't Gene
you just
Vestors
had like
for sure.
AC/DC patches and shit,
I
right?
remember having a Motley Crue, like Saxon.
And then I remember as soon as you started, you guys were like, "Fuck, let's hang out," right? You guys were cool. Like when I went downtown, I ended up becoming friends with a lot of those people downtown. But when I first went downtown, we got fucking made fun of. We got picked on. We fucking bumped into you. Within 30 seconds, you're like, "Yo, come on, fucking come skate with us."
A lot of those guys were mean. You'd see the punker guys like, "Do you like Dead Kennedys?" I'm like, "No, I like Razor. Fuck off." You know, like, what's your trip?
So you invited us to go skate, and we had a blast. And then we started skating with you on a regular basis, and you guys turned me on to so much music. It was Misfits Summer. That was right.
That too.
Misfits fucking Summer and Descendants.
Liked a lot of that. You had a lot of these guys coming, like we just said, coming out of areas where there was a lot of rockers. So when I heard Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales, I lost it, man, or Destruction. So all those bands were great. You know, the early age of punk, the first wave of all that LA stuff had kind of died off. So the Circle Jerks were making Wonderful, man. I mean, it's a good album, don't get me wrong. But I mean, it wasn't like Group Sex. Things had kind of changed. So you have Bad Brains, Eye Against Eyes coming out. You got the Cro-Mags with The Age of Coral. Yeah. Sam Hainer doing Initium. It was great. It was a great time.
Oh, dude, the late 80s.
I was in a record store and some old guys are like, you should have been around when the Stones' first album came out. I was like, oh yeah, dude, you should have been 16 when Rain and Blood dropped.
Exactly. Like, that was a good summer.
Yeah, Anthrax, man. You had all
that was the next summer, I think.
Anthrax were wearing Misfits shirts. The Metallica put out Master of Puppets, and they're sitting on the picture on the back cover is Metallica drinking beer in their living room in San Francisco with their Misfits records out. And I went and bought every Misfits record after seeing that. And I was like, these guys are kind of lame. It took a while.
So let me ask, do you remember? I mean, do you remember meeting me? Do you remember that? Do you remember
that exact day? Because I was with Mark Morrison and Pete Lemke.
Yeah. Pete Lemke. He rolled around skateboarding street and he'd have shin pads on.
Yeah, Gary Lee. Oh, he dressed up.
Did he have bad knees? Maybe he had bad knees.
Well, he was so tall. He was tall, but you got to remember
he was a tall fucking skateboarder. He was like Ben Schroeder.
He was the first guy to ollie a fire hydrant. So I always bug him. His kids want to skate now. He's the bartender down at Monkey Tree, and I always bug him. He's like, "Yeah, I'll come out and ride again."
And that is a cue to talk about our first sponsor. Pete Lemke at the Monkey Tree loaned me $5 earlier today. He's my first sponsor for Take Warning. Actually, that's not true. I just made that up.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to be
taking... He paid me and Jake to get the fuck out of the Monkey Tree.
Yeah, here you go. Your first sponsorship.
We're going to hang out here all day. So
get the fuck out of here.
Actually, we are sitting at the we're upstairs from the 477 Tattoo Studio located.
So yeah, okay. We have one of the sponsors. We have so much to talk about, dude. We have so much to talk about. Okay, so we had the best fucking day. We went and skated all these old spots. I hope there's a video that goes along with this. There's certainly going to be some photos. It was a go skateboarding day that I will always remember.
You forgot the final part of the whole trip.
We went to UVic. We went to UVic. We went to UVic.
We got to talk about UVic.
And I actually slammed pretty good there.
Anybody will tell you that, you know, what's a good skate park in Victoria? And I've heard guys go, well, Vic West is good, Gordo's good, and UVic.
UVic's not a skate park. We lived up at UVic. And that's another reason why I would come up to skate with you so much during the winter. Because when it was raining, you could go to UVic and we could skate those underground parking lots for hours.
Yeah, they had beautiful curves. They had walls. They had, and you know, these are back in this is what wasn't, guys aren't doing handrails yet. This is 1986. And so, I mean,
maybe Nodis Coppice is and maybe Mark Gonzalez is doing
nose pickers and shit.
Actually, Gonzalez was doing handrails in '85.
But there was nothing better than
maybe even '84.
Yeah, but 6 or 7 drunken teenagers out there. You got 6 guys. We get a couple bottles of wine, 4 6-packs, and you got a rowdy, kick-ass game of skateboard tag.
Skate tag was
nothing
fun.
Like skate tag in the underground.
Skate tag was so rad. Okay, you got to picture this parkade. It's massive. It's almost the size of a city block.
With a cut through in an elevator area. Through the middle.
Cut through, polished curbs. Super smooth, so smooth that you push once and you can go the whole length of the place.
Cool.
And it was like
3 times you're going 30 miles per hour.
And it was like a big track, like a fucking chariot track.
Yeah.
So you would just skate and skate and skate, and then one of my favorite.
You still can't skate now, you guys. Actually, the security are cool. They'll let you do your thing for a few minutes, but the lane part that I might add is that, before I forget, is that they closed off the one end of the skate park now. It's that beautiful curve that was back there is gone. But you can still go do the roundabout, so the racing part's still on, and the beautiful middle area with these sort of weird little curve, like bank things you can do little tricks on and stuff. It's cool.
And every once in a while, the campus security would come looking for us. We call them the campus cowboys.
Yeah, we were mean to them back then, but you grow up and then you realize when you're nicer to them, they'll let you actually skate. When it's like, hey man, can we just skate for 10 more minutes?
But that was a different time, man.
Yeah.
We were. It was not uncommon for police officers, security guards, and all sorts of other people, fucking
business
owners, to think that they could actually physically throw you to the ground.
I was carrying my board last week, and somebody said, "Hey, he's doing a mall grab," and I'm like, "This isn't a mall grab." You know what, man? I'm a guy who's fucking hit somebody in the head with a skateboard on more than one occasion. And I wouldn't be afraid to do it again. That's why I'm holding my board like this.
Yeah, if you see
those guys were violent.
If you see me mall grabbing, it's because I'm swinging my board.
Yeah,
at your
man,
head,
you're going down. Yeah, it's like,
which I would never do.
Yeah, because usually if I'm in the mall, I'm grabbing my nuts.
That's why you can't go into very many malls.
Yeah, that's why I'm unfortunately only allowed on this one podcast.
Dustin is his own worst enemy, like many of us are. We do goofy shit from time to time. Like, oh man, I have so many stories about our friend Hans, but that's a whole nother podcast. I'm gonna do a whole show.
I got some artwork.
Do a whole fucking show on Hans Fear.
He was actually. I've got a.
Okay, let's.
He was a guy though, too, but he would go from spot to spot. That was one of his favorite things. He'd skate those cool banks behind the hospital at the Jubilee. Remember them? There was like a little corner.
That was probably the first
like that
hip I ever skated.
So rad, man. I can still feel going off it.
Now, one of the things that made skating,
dude, if I won money, I'd rebuild that.
One of the things that made skating so many rough, crappy spots back then possible was the wheels we used to ride.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. If you rode ramp back then, you rode cubic 98s. Was about the hardest thing I'd ever saw. Crypto 98s, and then it was Pal Peralta 3s were the first wheels I think I got, or GNS yo-yos.
GNS made some good ramp
wheels. The yo-yos
wheels.
were about 87A. Jono and Lemke Jono was riding OJ Street Juice. Lemke had Rockets. Then I ended up getting a set of Madrid Fly wheels, which were made by Kryptonics. That's when wheels started getting really hard.
Yeah.
I decided I liked harder wheels because of the pools and that and the vert. And I kind of got away from the softer stuff. I bought a board a while back. I bought those like these mini little sort of ATV wrap bone wheels because they look cool. And I got on that thing and I can't ride like that anymore. I got to have harder wheels. But back then, if you were skating a place, you'd be Ogden Point was really rocky.
Okay, let's talk about Ogden Point.
Well, that was where it all starts there. Let me zero.
I'll post some photos of that too. Let me introduce this. Okay, so Ogden Point, in a city that there was absolutely nowhere to skate at all. There was no city built skateboard park.
One thing you got to tell people here though too is the reason it's important to have a skateboard park in 1985 is because skateboarding underwent a second huge boom after it had totally almost died out in the backyard. When Pal Peralta came up with those boards, every kid in summer school in 1984 or 5 wanted to get a Caballero or a Mike McGill or a Gator.
It became very popular.
Fucking big.
Yeah, that's when I really discovered it.
And the skaters were like rock stars to us, man. It's like, who do you like? You know, I like George Lynch out of Dawkins, and I like Monty Nolder, man. You know.
No, it's like fucking action figures or something. They were serious. They were serious superheroes because there was only about 20 of them.
When you were a kid, you collect action figures.
They were like there was like the Justice League, and then there was Dogtown and Powell.
It was like having a doll. I mean, you got your Caballero. I remember saying,
H Street.
When my Caballero's done, I'm going to buy the Rat Bones.
Yeah.
When my Rat Bones is done, I'm going to get the Zorlak double cut.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And then by the time the Zorlak double cut comes around, it's out, and it's like, whoa, no way, I'm getting an H Street. Look at that concave. I'm getting a Tony Magnuson.
Well, we were so jazzed about it, man. I mean, we were so fucking excited about everything we did. You know, all my money went to skateboarding.
There's things to do with skateboarding. You just waste
or just getting away. Like we used to do road trips and stuff. But here, let's back up a bit. We missed Ogden Point. Okay, so Ogden Point, if you're familiar with Victoria, BC, we're very, very, very southern tip of an island off the coast of British Columbia, off the west coast of Canada.
James Bay, right?
Okay, so James Bay, look at your Google, map it.
Some skaters went to school in James Bay. Like you had Taro and stuff, I think.
Yeah, there was a few people. I mean, well, shit, the downtown skaters like us. When I became a total town skater, we used to roll around James Bay, Fairfield all the time. That's why Ogden Point became so huge. So Ogden Point is a massive bank.
Well, there was a warehouse there that burnt down. So the warehouse went down to that roll. So they kept when the warehouse burnt down, they just kept the banks there, I guess.
Okay, so the platform would have been a big warehouse. Yeah. But this bank starts at about 4 feet high. 4 feet high. And goes to about
9 or 10 at the end.
At the very end.
Was 10 feet.
And how long was it? It was like about
300 feet.
300 feet. So
at least.
So a picture of this concrete bank that starts.
Well, you can put some pics up on the podcast. I've got some good shots of Danner.
I got some good photos too. But if you could imagine,
you got the one of me in the knee pads. It's embarrassing. I know. So looks like I'm not actually skateboarding. I'm doing a sexual favor.
It's so fucking, dude. It's so fucking cool. I got this photo of me doing a pretty badass judo air.
That's great.
And off in the distance, you can see Dustin and Mark. And Mark's in the Dodge Dart is parked right up on the platform. and you can see you with your perfectly fucking sculpted skull fucking hairdo, okay, that didn't move even if you stuck your head out the window and were driving real fast, okay. And I see Dustin's wearing fucking Rectors at this street spot. Actually, okay, if anybody...
There was a quarter pipe and I was busting airs.
So,
you forgot to add that because what those guys did at Ogden Point had a giant, almost vertical transition bank. And a dude named Mark McNeil, an old school guy, one of the Buttocks guys, he was an old base skater guy. He's still around, man. You probably see him. Mark McNeil, if you're out there, props. But he'd show up to the Ogden Point with his car. Morrison had the stereo. But McNeil showed up one day with a fucking PA system and a quarter pipe. And those guys left the quarter pipe down there.
They left the quarter pipe there.
So you roll in, you go down the roll in and do tricks, right? And one day we brought down an empty inner tube, and we were fucking pulling on it so we could do frontside ollies on this quarter pipe. And then one day I just said, fuck it. And I left the inner tube off my board and I pulled on the board and did a frontside air. So that's where I learned that frontside airs on that little quarter pipe after watching older guys like Ian O'Gorman do them, or Craig Hall did nice ones, man. I saw Terry Hildebrand, all those guys on Terry Hildebrand we should talk about too, because he had a beautiful half pipe, probably a 8-foot high half pipe by 16 feet.
Is that what we're doing now? We're going down. Okay, so after
let's talk about some of the spots.
After memory lane, we're gonna go down. Let's talk about some of the spots. Let's talk about some of the rad spots then.
But that was like you say about Ogden though. The key thing about Ogden was that you'd have guys from everywhere. So you'd have all the James Bay boys would show up, all the Oak Bay guys would show up, all the Gordon Head guys would show up.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people got to meet one another.
Jamer and those guys were all fucking like they were George J. They were the right straight Victoria, man. He was ghetto. So those guys would show up, right?
Yeah.
Me and Morrison and those dudes, Lemke would show up. The Glen Lyon guys were fucking rowdy. You know, they'd show up. You'd have
Glen Lyon guys were rowdy.
Andrew O'Brien and them were badass.
Okay,
because they were in a private school all week.
You know what they were? They were fucking. You know what they?
You know what those up all week. It's Friday night. Let's get down, bro.
You know what those guys were? Those guys were less than zero.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Those guys were less than zero.
You see it now they're all quiet because they got their stuff straight. Like there's a reason their parents sent them to Glen Lyon.
Bret Easton Ellis shit, man.
Yeah, except with all the Genesis.
He's like,
those guys.
I'm fucking when I'm not skating with you guys and fucking doing whippets and Pam in the fucking back parking lot. I'm wearing boat shoes and I'm down at the fucking docks.
So those guys had nothing to lose on the weekends, man, and they were rowdy. You know, and their parents had good liquor. I remember like, hey, look what I got.
Well, they were rich. That's the thing, okay?
And they shared their wealth. So they were nice.
You didn't. When I met you, right? Like, here's another thing about Dustin, right? What I found was very cool is not only did you befriend me right away, and we're like, because you guys, that's the thing about you get jazzed about sharing these things that you love and you're stoked on. You want to share them with other people. Like you're like, oh, you got to hear this, you got to hear this, you got to hear this, and next thing I know, I got a fucking catalog of these amazing bands I've never even heard of. I got so much music. I mean, Dustin, you guys turned me on to Beyond Possession, so it was your generosity, you know. Generosity always.
When you find something in you find guys that are into it, and you want to share it with them, right? You got to get your crew together, right? It's like, okay, I just finished hanging out with a.
But here was what I was gonna say. You took off. What I was gonna say was you invited me over to your house for, to like smoke some weed and then go skate your ramp, which is a whole nother story. But meet your parents, and I remember fucking going to your house for dinner.
Yeah.
I remember going to your house. I think we had pork chops.
Probably throwing them around.
Okay, if you've seen a TV show called The Simpsons, right? You know how Bart kind of pisses off Homer and Lisa stands off to the side and is kind of frustrated about the whole thing, and then Marge just goes, "Oh, Bart," right? That's exactly what going to your parents' house for dinner was like. But it was so sweet, and I look back on it now, and I think it's fucking awesome because
they were cool like that.
They were very cool. Look, they were very, very cool because. You guys were real. There was no pretension. There was no bullshit.
Well, at the same time, I think my dad just because he was my dad was one of those dads. I don't think his parents could afford to put him in every sport. So it's like, quit farting around at soccer. I'm like, I'm fuck. He wants me to score a goal at soccer. I'm standing in the corner wanking off, pretending I'm Gene Simmons doing the bass solo in 100,000 years. And he's just like, no, man. Hockey I did okay. I was starting to get okay in it, but it was starting to get weird. And I just found out now that there was some cases of abuse where I was out playing hockey. So that stuff just started creeping me out.
Team sports in general.
Yeah, all that shit. And I was you gotta remember, like, I went to a school where these guys were monsters, and I was most of these guys were 6 feet tall already in grade 10 and 11, and 180 pounds, and I weighed 130 pounds and was like 5 foot whatever. So I had the perfect build for a skateboarder. But
That actually reminds me of a story of the time that I didn't quit the soccer team yet, and I decided to play goal. And I remember we played Arbutus, and you walked by when I was in net.
Yeah, I was bugging the shit out of you. That was great. Yeah.
That was awesome. You were like, Jake, what the fuck you doing?
That was awesome. But at least you're still playing, right? And that was the thing.
Because I like the sport.
What I didn't do, though, was be a jerk to those guys out there. They're like, if you want to skateboard, Dustin, that's cool. But it got weird after a while. Like in grade 12, I remember going to a party and calling one of my friends up who didn't skateboard. And I said, what's going on tonight? And I knew there was a party that night at this chick's house. And it was Mount Doug, right? And I'm in grade 12. And I said, what are you guys doing tonight? And they all went, oh, nothing, dude. We're not going out tonight. We can't get the car. I remember getting on the bus and going downtown. I was riding the bus downtown, and I saw all those fuckers drive by in the car. And I was like, aw, that's the end of me, I guess. But it was a choice I made, right? The skateboarding those guys were sketched out, man. All of a sudden, my friends are like, why are you hanging around downtown? I'm like, well, because it's fun. They didn't really get it. So, and you don't really get it unless you ride it. And I still explain to people what goes on with this stuff, and people, what's this skateboarding thing all about? And it's like,
I still have conversations with people that expect me to have quit by now because it's not for adults.
Or what got you into skateboarding? I said, to me, getting me into skateboarding, what got me into skateboarding was my friend going, hey man, take this bag of crap and whip it at that guy's house. And your friends are in the bush, dude, and you're like cracking up, bro, and you run up to the house, you're like, and you whip this bag of poo at a house, and you're like so stoked, man, it's gonna hit the house and explode, and you run and you get away, and you made it. And that's landing a trick. That's looking at the wall going, fuck, I'm going to die. I'm going to try a sweeper right now. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to land it. And your friend's like, come on, man, you can do it. That's the same as your friends going, yeah, man, do it, get it.
You think me landing a trick is the same as me hucking a bag of shit at someone's house?
Well, it's the same rush, but you're doing the same thing.
I see what you're saying.
Something when you're 10 years old that needs to be channeled some other way,
right? I see what you're saying. It's like
you're getting a rush.
Channeling your delinquency.
Your friends are daring you to do something that's dangerous. You're doing it. And you're running off and getting away with it. So you're doing the same thing skateboarding, man. You're on the fucking edge. You're up to that lip. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Fucking, like, a guy who we knew who's been skating for 40 years dies in a bowl contest smacking his head. Like, fuck.
That
easy as that.
That is so fucking crazy. So,
yeah, shouts out again, you guys, to Don Hartley.
Yeah, I don't mean that's another. Oh Jesus, stuttering now. That's another fucking episode.
Wear your helmet.
That's another episode, especially older guys. Older guys. Don't walk away from the microphone.
My text. If my kids aren't coming over, you're lucky.
Dustin has 2 kids.
18 years old.
Dustin is a father. You've done really good with that, by the way, buddy.
They're selling weapons right now, so me and Jake are going to buy a couple of what do they call it? It's a Uzi? Or how do you spell
weapons?
What's a Uzi?
I don't implement me in the
weapons. We're starting a gangster rap band, so we're going to get some Uzis, and we're going to we're supposed to move some stuff called weight, whatever
Speaking
that means.
of gangster rap, speaking of gangster rap, Dustin, you've always had a very, very, very broad interest in music. I can remember.
You know why I like gangster rap? Because there's drumming and swearing.
There you go.
Right?
You just like it because they're swearing. So I remember cruising along with you one summer. I remember there was so much music back then that we listened to.
It's funny because the hip hop.
And you introduced me to Schoolie D, Smoke Some Kill.
Probably the first gangster rapper, man, in rap music out of Philadelphia for sure. His first album was called Saturday Night. Jamer loved that too, and giant guy from Philly, for sure the first gangster rapper besides maybe Ice-T or Slick Rick. Because I think the first Schoolie D record would be 85. I got Smoke Some Kill at Lyle's just because it said Smoke Some Kill.
So you were at the skate comp last weekend.
I heard Schoolie D for the first time.
Last weekend, I'm changing subjects here. Okay.
Just to remind you of Schoolie D, Sluggo played a Schoolie D when we were young. We went because I'll put this out here.
Sluggo used to live in Victoria.
Sluggo and Jake went to school, and he was always really cool and supportive of the Victoria skate scene.
He always is.
Guy
always has been. Oh yeah.
Props out to Sluggo and the RDS guys.
Love Rob.
Yeah.
Love Rob.
Too bad he can't skate. Just joking. Hey bro, need some advice?
Still just ripping, and then you know what? When you take care of yourself physically the way Rob does, you can continue to skate.
I just saw a picture of him, dude, and he was doing a fucking stale fish at Hastings, and it looked like he was planking something. It was just like he was so laid out, bro.
Dude, he is still so fit.
His body was like 9 feet long, just stretched out like a snake, and he was doing. I'm like, what is this? It was a stale fish, just beyond tweaked, man. Like way up, and grabbing it like a plate. Like it was like he was a butler holding up a tray of drinks.
I could try and tell you a Sluggo story, but I'm pretty sure you'll interrupt me.
He'll kill us.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask you next, I mean, you know, we don't want to get too serious or anything like that, but, you know, let's talk about, so you were at the skate comp on the weekend. This was the annual skate comp where Jimmy Miller gets on the microphone for 5 hours and will not shut the fuck up. I love Jimmy, but it's one of the reasons why I have a hard time.
That's his job, though. You got to do that.
Do you have to talk that much?
Did you see the terror in his eyes when he was trying to do his run, right? And this guy.
Start a fucking podcast if you want to talk that. If you want to talk that much,
you got to talk because you got to get words up. And what Jimmy does is he talks about each guy while he's riding and lets you know everything going on. He's terrified when I grab the mic. I suckered the mic out of some guy.
Oh,
and I didn't realize that this guy goes, "Hey man, can you take it easy on the F-bombs?" City of Victoria shirt. I told Lisa Helps, our mayor, that I said, "You're off the hook for that bike lane fiasco if you build us our skate park and towpath," which he, believe it or not, is talking about.
They are talking about it. It's no big deal anymore, man. Skateboarding is the coolest thing in the world.
And she says, "Why not?" Lisa said that was a waste of space. And
dude, it's legal to skateboard now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a recognized sport. These Vans comps are getting so big now. I mean,
but it's legal to skate in
most
Victoria.
Most people want to see skateboarding in the Olympics, but the fact that they got all those African kids have skateboards in parks now is rad. So,
dude, it's all over the planet.
I had one of those guys. It's on my
planetary.
Facebook, man. I said, "Just beware of my raunch, bro." So, if I got some bad pictures of Eazy-E and Hervé, you know,
okay,
Gary Coleman in a compromising position, you know, I gotta let these guys know how I roll. It's like I'm a Facebook terrorist, dude.
Dustin is a bit of a Facebook terrorist. He just was kicked off and let back on Tuesday morning at 10 a.m.?
Yeah, I got kicked back off again, or just about. Well, I'm back on now, though. It's cool. If you guys can't find me on Facebook, just you can contact me through my deceased mother, Carolyn Wild Schwam. She's got a website on there, and she will talk to you from beyond the grave.
Your mom was awesome. Your dad was awesome.
Yeah, they were supportive.
They were always really awesome.
They were like
to me.
Soccer parents, but they were the original skateboard parents. Like they'd root you on.
So you had a ramp. This is where I learned how to skate transition. Was your backyard?
But my ramp, like we said, we were talking. Like Terry had a really big ramp. There was a big one in Duncan. There's a big one in Mill Bay, and these were ramps that were 12 feet high. Where if you wiped out, you were fucking eating soup for the rest of your gig.
Okay, I don't want to talk about those other ramps. Tell me about your ramp.
I went to a small one day in Fairfield. A guy named Jeff Keenleyside's house. He's the head chef now at the marina. He still rips.
Fuck, I skated. I love skating that
Killer
ramp.
backside ollies. This guy still does.
He's an incredible chef.
He's a good chef too. I just tattooed him a while ago. He's a good guy. Get a hold of him. Go to the marina and eat. Anyways, Keenleyside had a ramp that was about 8 feet wide, which is really narrow when you think about it. 8 feet is not a lot of room to do a big trick like an air or an invert.
I learned to skate his ramp and your ramp. That's how I learned to skate.
That's what happened. My dad, Jeff's was 8x6. It was in a really contained area in the back of his yard. And my dad came one day and he said, "You guys look like you're having fun on that." And I said, "Yeah, it's my favorite ramp because I learned how to grind on it. You didn't have to go right to vert. So it's 6 feet. You're already doing a Smith grind or a backside grind, which is the biggest thing in the world to me." And my dad said, that would probably keep you assholes out of trouble. If I built you guys a ramp,
he probably told you just like that too.
Exact words.
He
man.
called you an asshole.
He said, he called us les. He called us dykes. You fucking dykes. That was his favorite word for us. We're a bunch of lesbians.
This was the late 70s, early 80s.
Why are we lesbians, Dad? Well, because you guys like chicks and you don't have any dicks.
Okay, all right.
So that's how I was raised. Not that there was anything wrong with that. We became Amish after.
You got scissors, Dustin?
Use the bong.
Well, yeah, I need scissors. Just breaking it up a little bit.
Why would anyone want scissors in the middle of a podcast, right? He's cutting his pubes. So I took him down to Pluto's, man. He had some alfalfas on his Reuben. And I'm like, "Those are pubes of the garden, Jake." And now he's like, "Oh, man.
Garden pubes."
Yeah, GP.
He taught me that. That's awesome.
So Hildebrand had the ramp. We had skated Keenleysides. My dad said, "You need a ramp." Because he wanted to keep me out of trouble. And he was stoked on the skating, man. Because I was into it. And he thought, he didn't think I was very good. And so when he saw me ride Jeff's, he was like, "Oh, you're not bad at this."
All right, so now we're recording again. We are recording again. We had a moment there where we had to take a break. You're listening to Take Warning with Jake Warren. I'm your host. It's National Go Skateboarding Day, and like I said earlier,
it's not the summer solstice. It's National Go Skateboarding Day.
Yeah,
if you're not skateboarding, at least read a Thrasher or something, dude, or watch some Love Letters with Grosso. Just do something.
I love that show. I love that show.
He's great. Except you know what sucks? The only thing I don't like about Grosso is when he slams on Jim Gray. Because good luck doing a Jim Jam, dude. Because that's a hard trick to do.
It is, especially when you get really chunky.
The only guy who does those is Benny Rayburn. So.
It's tough to do that. Of course, Ben Rayburn does it because he's fucking 109 pounds.
Hey, Ben Rayburn, if you're out there, dude, you're rad.
Dude, Ben Rayburn rips.
Yeah, he's about as rad as it gets.
I think he's one of the guys
that does a better invert than Benny Rayburn is DeMarcus James. If he's out there listening, man, and if you guys don't know who he is, look him up. He skates for. I can't remember who the last time he was skating for.
Everybody who skates now.
He's got hair like Steve Stedham had. He's a young African American who rips hard and probably has the best take on a trick called the Jolly Mambo, which is a frontside invert at the last second flipped around, kind of like a Miller flip, but right around, man. And you'll see what I mean when you see him do one. I'm pretty sure Fedge invented it. Jeff Hedges back in the day, who was the invert king. And this guy actually, DeMarcus James, is a Fedge prodigy. Okay, enough about him. Inverts rule.
All right, so. I was talking earlier about how I met you and about how much
the second ramp was a pretty important
meeting you guys. You and Mark was such a game changer for me when it came to skateboarding.
Well,
let me ask you the fucking question.
Tell where Mark came from though. Like you keep bringing that name up.
Okay, well let's talk about Mark Morrison then. Tell me about Mark Morrison.
Well, we were lucky because at a time when skateboarding was kind of different in Victoria, and Calgary was I wasn't riding a board that much yet, but I already knew that Calgary had this rowdy scene. You just kind of, so I think Mark was the first guy to be from Calgary that I met.
It was pretty rowdy, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. So they were into the punk rock, but it was funny because this dude would wear a pink Izod shirt and he'd go downtown and hook guys out. And it was Calgary, but it was punk rock. He's like, yeah, I like the Misfits and the Necros. And first, for sure, I started hearing some of the really good Canadian bands like the Stretch Marks or the Personality Crisis or Direct Action, just stuff like that. The bunch of fucking goofs, Beyond Possession, SNFU. The first time I heard SNFU, I was down at Ogden Point. I heard the Grave Robber or the Grave Digger. I lost my shit, and it's still to this day my favorite Canadian punk album. No one else wanted to play.
He's the best frontman for punk bands.
Back in the day was just the best. He's still great. So sometimes I like to give him a piece of gum if I'm going to hang out with him. So
there you go. So Mark Morrison, he showed up 27.
No, yeah, he was like 37 years old, I think, when we were 6.
He showed up here. He was 19, but he was actually 37.
So this is a guy who had a license to drive, which was a big deal.
The only guy with a car.
And he could get liquor. So
check out the photo of him in the green Dart. Fucking always had a cool car too.
He had a couple when I first met him, I think he had a Demon, and then he got a Dodge. He had a Demon, like a blue Demon. Then he had a couple of different Dodge Darts.
And when you went to his house, it was so fucking cool because he lived in his parents' basement. It was like his own apartment. It was like his own apartment.
They were another really cool family.
His own apartment was down there, basically.
Yeah, big time.
I didn't see his parents for the first 3 years. I never met him.
They were great.
You'd hear him upstairs every once in a while, but you'd never see him.
His old man Barry was one of those dudes. Like he'd have these expensive ass like Infinity speakers that were worth like $8 million or whatever. And he'd sit there and have his glass of wine and listen to Eno. He was a rad dude, but yeah, he's a cool guy, man. He'd go up there, they'd smoke grass.
Was he a cool guy?
Smoke grass and have parties with their, it was fucking cool.
Would Mark say his dad's a cool guy?
Totally. Barry lives in Penticton now. I think he still goes and visit him. His mom Skippy was the greatest. She passed the same year as my mom, which sucks.
Oh, really?
They can bitch about us up in heaven together, right? Fuck. Bitch. They're probably like, fuck, I hated that Mentors, man. So, but you know what I mean? They were just cool parents that were tolerant. So, and we bounced back and forth. If Mark wasn't hanging out, we go up to his house. So Gordon there wasn't a lot of dudes.
And he was a good skateboarder.
Oh, he was great, and he was a good bass player. So he had lots of records.
So he came from.
He wasn't good. He was like
he came from Calgary. So what kind of scene did he come from?
Vert. So we learned vert right away. Like it wasn't like.
Where did he skate in Calgary then?
I think Terry Hildebrandt drove by my house and told us to fuck off one time, right? Told us to, he's like. Skaters go home or whatever. And then the next time I met Terry, it was with Mark, and Mark came by and said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "We're building a ramp." And that's how I met him. And so Mark he was doing stuff like backside bonuses, and like he basically did Craig Johnson's whole kit in 1985.
He's a tall guy.
Big guy. Yeah, he hit the ramp. He put a
How tall was Mark?
He's about 6'1" or 6, probably 6'2" or 6'3" even.
Yeah, but he was lanky, which is good. He looked like another Ben Schroeder.
And he'd get into parties, man. I was at this party in Old Bay.
He's a tough guy too. Well, he came from fucking Calgary.
This windsurfer guy called him a jerk, and we were at this party, man. And Mark hit the guy. And it was like a bag of roofing nails hitting the guy in the melon, dude. And he went right down from the top stair to the bottom.
So here's
Mark yelled, "The guy windsurfing sucks."
Here's a song title to give you an idea of where Mark's brain was during that time. Okay,
Me and You Should Fight.
Me and You Should Fight.
Yeah, by what the band was called, Dry Fisted.
That was a song that Mark wrote.
Me and You Should Fight.
Me and You Should Fight.
Right outside tonight. Yeah. What gives you the right? Me and You Should Fight.
He was so mellow, mild-mannered about it too. But then all of a sudden, he'd be fucking dropping dudes.
The funny thing, you watch this guy too, man. He'd be smiling, right? He'd be fighting. He'd be laughing. But I saw
because he never got too personal
about it. He got
it.
a fight with this dude named Vaughn in Nanaimo outside of a gig, and those guys are buddies now.
He never got personal about it.
They punched the shit out of each other, man. And then later on that night, they're like, "You on the internet? Yeah, man. I'm using a PC because they're computer nerdy back then."
He's a computer guy. So yeah, he's kind of an interesting dude. He comes from Calgary. He's a skater. He's into super heavy tunes like Rigor Mortis. I remember he was always into Rigor Mortis.
He liked all the cleanse the bacteria, so it was all about like Ouzo and he liked the Japanese bands like Lip Cream, man, and he liked Gauze and he liked
Visual Discrimination.
He liked Battalion of Saints. He was all about.
Oh fuck yeah, he got me into Battalion of Saints.
Everything had a beat like this. If it went like this.
Yeah.
Mark was all over it, man.
Totally.
He was the early D beat guy.
So that's okay. Because
they call it a D beat now.
I want to stick with the whole idea of me meeting you and Dustin, or you and Mark, because it was really a package deal. When I met you, I met both of you. You guys were together constantly. You were the fucking Gordon Head crew.
Well, yeah, because
you ran the shit out here.
Yeah, no, but there wasn't anything in Gordon Head. It was just
well, and there was McQueen, and there was a couple other guys.
Jono was around.
Okay, but what I liked
Angus
is
Denny too.
Angus Denny. But you guys were like,
you came to town.
You were you. That's the thing is you would come to fucking Ogden.
One thing being a Gordo
you'd come
skater,
skate Sadlands. You'd show up and you'd also hit the parkades with us.
Yeah. Some guys are bummed on that. I'm not gonna lie, because it was crazy down there, and like these guys are rowdy. Like I brought a friend who's kind of quiet, and we're downtown, and we're on top of a parkade skating around, and Dave Knight looks at a group of 30 rockers and goes, "Hey, you guys are a bunch of dorks." Like it's on. And other guys weren't into that. They didn't want to get beat up. Where half the fun was, let's see if we can get away from these guys. We're gonna get a bit of a beating. No one's gonna stab us. Worst comes to worst.
Right.
But some guys weren't into that stuff, man.
But you were ready to go. I remember you and Mark were always ready to go. Whereas the guys in town, the true story, we would be 30 deep, and two fucking big rockers would decide they wanted to beat us up, and we would run because we were so tiny. And we were just babies.
I was tiny too, but I was
but
I've been getting beat up since grade 7. So.
Yeah, I don't know, man. You were tougher than the rest of us. It took a long time, and then finally Darcy Dennis started hanging around and kind of he started sticking up for us.
And he'd hang out with guys who were already rockers, like Darcy was friends with another guy, great guy, Pat Pugh, rest in peace, buddy. Yeah. But Pat would be like, hey man, you start seeing rockers hanging around. Ratcliffe.
Yeah,
starts coming around,
That's another fucking story right there. The great infiltration and migration of certain communities, like where a certain now Dayglow abortion used to reside from, and one day all of a sudden there's these fucking heshers hanging around everywhere, and I'm going, where the fuck did these guys come from? But I was closer to them than I was to you guys. Yeah, I was in Viroy.
Well, I met a lot of guys through Jake, like Doug Copley.
Yeah, fucking Doug Copley.
Yeah, Jeff Turnbull.
Ange Kubasek.
Jake Zentner, Ray Forsberg.
Ange Kubasek.
Yeah.
Ange Kub.
Kuba Life in Check. She's going to listen to be pissed off.
Oh, no, she's going to love this podcast. She's going to love the fact that we're talking about her, too.
Victoria, dickhead.
I know.
Sorry, hey, watch your language.
We love Yanch.
We did not call a female a dickhead on Jake's podcast.
You know what? It's equal. It's equal fucking territory here. Okay, men and women are equal.
Yeah, if
you're a female and you're being a dick, you're being a dick.
Yeah, man, you're a dick.
Exactly. You know what it's. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody's capable of it. Okay, so let's stay on track here, Dustin. This is going great, man. This has been the fucking best go skateboarding day I can remember in a long, long time, because I think I haven't gone skateboarding in probably 20. I don't know, maybe the last 8 years. So last
year I took it really easy because we were going down to Petaluma. This year the Jacks team get together in a different city.
Which leads me to my next round of questions.
So those guys were in Shasta this year. They didn't organize it, so I'm staying in.
Let me ask you the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so after you and Mark became this package deal, this duo. We started hitting the mainland a lot. We started going on. We started. We started to go Vancouver. I want you to tell me about how the band scene and everything kind of led us over to Vancouver, and you and Mark ended up becoming on Jack's team.
Well, it actually started before the band thing, because the band thing came a tiny bit later, even because we were skateboarding a lot in Vancouver with we had met Carlos, and by the time we met Carlos and Mike, Ian was a key to that, because O'Gorman knew Mike Anus and Carlos, and I went over with my mom in Lemke one time and met Mike Anus when I was 14 and just hit it off with him right away. I couldn't believe it that I just seen a fucking guy with hair longer than mine wearing a Merciful Fate shirt with Slayer patches doing inverts. I was like, whoa, this is cooler than Tony Hawk. Like I found my spot. And I flipped out. And then I remember coming back, going to Expo at all the Jacks were at Expo, and it was really big. They just started a chapter in Vancouver.
How many Jacks were at Expo, do you think? I remember bumping into a whole crew of them.
Probably 40. I mean, Theo Jack had come up with all these guys from California, and you're meeting guys like Robin Hood. Theo Jack was here, like it was crazy. Mofo was walking around. I
remember there was a guy with a full leg cast on crutches.
Dork. No, it wasn't a leg cast. That was a fake leg. And it was Dork, and he was drinking out of his leg. Like he's around here too. He owned a skate shop and van, but those guys had all just kind of got turned into a really.
It was a fake leg.
Yeah. They got turned into a fake chapter.
I know he had a fake leg, but I have this memory of a guy in a leg cast. So I must have saw it wrong.
It was a prosthetic leg, and he'd rip on it, and it was spray painted and shit and fucked up, and they were lighting it on fire.
Dude, it was like right out of Thrashing. We came down the hill, and there was this whole fucking crew of vested guys.
Yeah, Dave Dork. And Dave, if you're out there listening, man, he goes by Dick De Niro on Facebook.
Okay,
you guys.
So
he lives in London now.
So tell me about so you Expo.
We went there to go hang out and party, and the Jacks division just kind of started there. It was really, really young.
Who were the first Jacks then in BC?
The first Jacks in BC they weren't actually BC, it was Canada. So the first Jack would be Sporticus, and the second was Terry Orr.
Where was Sporticus then?
San Francisco.
He was in SF, but he was a Canadian.
And he brought it back up to Canada with him, and then they put a guy.
Is he Canadian? Is he Canadian?
Yes, he's from he lives in Nuku'alofa now.
Yeah, I know, but I wasn't sure if he was Canadian. So he's dual citizen or whatever.
No. He just went down and party. He rode freight trains.
Oh, fucking right. So.
He met the Lude. Sport was a teenager, like me or you. He was 17. He met the Lude in Vancouver, I believe, in 1980, and went down with them. And that was it. It all starts right there when Sport fucking saw the Lude and Van. And then, like Terry Orr came, and then some pretty, like most of the guys like we would know, like Mike and Reese, and that would be 84, 85, just before Expo. So a lot of guys gone on right at Expo.
Yeah.
And including they were going to put Mark Morrison and Ian on.
When did Carlos get on?
85, I believe, or around there. So those guys, I think Carlos just got hooked on immediately when they saw him skate.
Shit, right? At Expo,
but he was a skateboard OG from the 70s.
He came second place, I think, in that competition.
No, he didn't. He got disqualified because
he wouldn't
wear a helmet.
But he still came in second. I think if you look at it in Trans World and Thrasher, it still says that Carlos Longo came in second place.
He scored up was better. He was better than Caballero. Miller was ripping.
Hey, Caballero was amazing.
But you got to remember the thing.
Carlos, that was his park.
Carlos said that. He goes, these guys have never ridden here before, and they're almost better than me.
That was his. Well, that's because they're the best in the world.
Yeah.
But Carlos skated that place different. He skated it like a local.
Yeah, but those guys.
The tricks he had there were so much more gnarly.
Caballero saw
I wouldn't say more gnarly, but still gnarly.
But the California guys were stoked when they saw Gordon.
Chris fucking Miller.
Yeah, and the Faulkners were ripping in that.
The Faulkners were ripping. Sluggo was ripping.
Sluggo was tearing it up.
Fucking who else was ripping?
Chris Miller was good. Monty Nolder.
Bruno
Peters.
Yeah, but Vancouver guys. Sean Kearns.
Dan Arnold. Tuckney, rocket inverts, touching
those
the
guys.
back of his head. Remember
but
that?
The cover of the Thrasher magazine, that issue.
Chris Miller doing a
frontside air with a cut knee, and he had blood on his hand.
Like that, bent.
And he was so tweaked.
Yeah, like that. He was doing the John Gibson.
And he looked like he was fucking, like he could be smoking a pipe or something.
No, dude, the thing was,
he's so smooth.
He was like this, yeah, but he was tweaked. And
I love you, Chris Miller.
It was the gnarliest, raddest trick, but he looked like 90210.
Exactly.
Like he had this nice haircut.
Oh, dude, he was so cute.
You couldn't go. That guy's a Gaylord because he's ripping, right?
But Chris Miller was never a fucking douchebag.
He was rad. He always is.
He was a pretty boy, but he wasn't a douchebag.
Yeah, he's one of him and Bucky are still because the way those guys skate now, they get better. And that Pat Noho, like any guy who's still learning shit in their 50s, that's fucking out of hand.
Well, that's what skateboarding is so cool with right now, is because all of this massive resurgence of individual skating style.
It's not cool to the guys who like. There's certain skaters who got into the sport for a reason, right? And they just simply haven't had the time to practice every day like that too. So I feel sorry for guys that did fall out, and it's probably intimidating for them to go back in. Like guys laughing at dudes in the Vans Classic. It's like it seems like you have to have a run better than Grosso or Lance Mountain to be in the Masters division, because they're laughing when guys wipe out.
So how'd you get on Jax? How did you and Mark get on Jax then?
Dude, like I said, so we went to Expo. Comp happened there. Someone came up, I think someone said we got to put Ian and Mark on the Jax. And Ian had kind of stopped hanging out. Well, he was hanging out a lot, but he was going a different direction where we were starting bands already. And Ian and Mark had said they were going to get put on. And then Sport put the kibosh on it. And then it just kind of, we came back to Victoria. And because Mark and Ian didn't get on the Jax, we had started the 4Q trip. And that's when we said, let's do this fucking hardcore. So we got all our friends together and made fake little colors that were Jax wannabe kind of things.
They were badass colors.
Yeah, they were based on the Fogtown skateboard graphic from the San Francisco company that Danny Sargent, who was a Jax member, would end up riding for. And same with Steve Roeder, Concrete Jungle Crew. But those guys were all, it was basically just started a mini Jax in Victoria because the Jax wouldn't let us start all of a sudden. So we're like, fuck them. Not really fuck them, but we were down still. You know, we still talked to Mike. Talked to Carlos all the time and skated with them.
So was it the band scene that kind of
big time? We came back to Victoria, skated a bit, did our 4Q thing, started a band called Atrocity, followed MOC around, played a couple of shows, and it all ended up when Atrocity played with a Jax band called Out of Control. I think it comes back to about 1988 in Nanaimo. So fast forward a year or two,
the Acme Pipe Company.
We have the whole 4Q team, which is Monk. You were on it. Doug Easton was on it. Fucking Bruce Pegler, Chris McQueen, Morrison, Elliot Pollard, Dave Knight, Hands, all those guys, and half of them became Jax. And it's just one of those things. And the band stuff started up. We played a couple of shows with Atrocity or OOC. I was in a band called Atrocity, which was an offshoot of Mission to Christ. Mark was on bass. Another crazy Calgary
Darren Marshall.
He was an old. He was a local from that place called the Manor in Calgary. The guy was doing fucking fast plants on 12 feet. So the guy was nuts.
Was the Manor in that?
Calgary. It's in the Social D movie.
Social D movie.
Yeah, so he's one of those cats.
Another State of Mind.
Yeah, ripping backside air, lake grab, everything. Sketched out, feet off the board in the air, and then landing it like lunch.
Fucking serious disasters.
But so he was the lead singer in Atrocity. We went to Vancouver and played with a band called Out of Control because the Jax had their own band. It was Carlos Longos, I believe. Mike Anus. Or Mike LeMans, let's just say, so it's a little nicer for the kids on the radio.
Anus. His name is Mike Anus.
Because he wanted to pick out a punk.
I have a restricted logo on my podcast, Dustin. It's okay if you say Anus.
Okay, so Mike, he just loves being called that. His name's Mike LeMans, if he's listening. Great guy out in Edmonton, still ripping. Plays in the Dayglow Abortions. And
awesome guy.
He did play in the Dayglows. He's in a good band called Fuckard.
Fuckard. It's called Fuckard, but it's spelled with a Q.
Yeah, and he plays guitar and skatinist. But he was key element in that because I think what happened was that the band OOC came and played in an indoor ramp in Nanaimo, and Atrocity played, and that's kind of when the ball was really rolling, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna put you on Jax." And it's like,
so there you go. Who did your first colors?
Steve Goof and Mike Anus.
Is Steve Goof a Jack?
Yes, he was from Toronto, and he threatened me. He's like,
of course he did, and that's his way of saying hello.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, Hi, I'm gonna.
Something like, you're either going to be on Jax or I'm throwing you off the balcony here.
Hey, man, if I choke you out or shiv you, it's just because I really like you.
They liked me, though. That was the thing. They didn't want to lose me. So
well, you know what, Dustin? You're a likable guy.
They were great guys. So, and Mike and I were like, for real, like, Mike put me up for trade school when I went to Vancouver. Like, I stayed at his house and saved hundreds of dollars. And I remember...
That's right. We haven't talked too much about how you used to make a living with all this shenanigans. You used to work for your father's glass company.
Never a dull moment there. All the guys that worked there, alcoholic, crazy, just it was amazing.
Okay, well, don't burn everybody.
No, I miss all those guys. They were the best.
All right, so the whole time I grew up with Dustin, I remember knowing that his dad owned quite a well-known glass company, and if you ever fucked up a window at a party, which I did a couple of times, you could call Dustin, and if you gave him a case of beer,
and help me. You had to help.
I didn't help. I didn't help both times you helped me. Thank you very much. But I gave you beer, and those windows got fixed.
Oh yeah, man. They had you, right?
Well, yeah, I like your attitude about that.
We just did some tattoo work on Dustin from Hot Hot Heat, and we tried to go across the street to take a picture of the window that Willie Jack pushed his head through his Beatles haircut. He's all like,
Dustin from Hot Hot Heat. You just tattooed him?
Yep. He's back in Victoria.
What did he get tattooed?
A Rathbones logo.
Are you fucking serious?
Yeah.
I asked you for one of those earlier today.
So what? Everyone gets those. Cohen got one too just a while back.
Yeah, but I want mine on my throat.
Who was the first guy to get a Rathbones logo? Hildebrand. Yeah, if you're listening, Terry, get the hell out of that fishing boat, empty that thing out, and skate it.
Dude, if Terry's listening to this, he's on the top of a ramp somewhere, still trying to decide whether he wants to drop in on that sweeper.
Yeah, he's halfway through a sweeper. If Hildebrand, you out there? I heard you started a sweeper in 1986.
Oh, we're gonna have to fucking edit this part out.
He's gonna kill us.
We're gonna have to edit that part out.
Props, man. Rad skater.
We love Terry fucking
One
Hildebrand.
of the first big vert ramps for sure. The coping on that thing was an inch, or it was like 3 inches around, so it would shoot you right out. So, and he did.
Yeah, he had a fucking rad. I never skated it. I saw photos of it.
I saw Hildebrand did rad Indy airs on that thing, man.
So okay. You know what? I love Terry. And when I moved to Vancouver in 1987 and lived with my dad there for the year, Terry was in the city at that time, and we skated a lot together. We used to go to the ranch.
That's a key.
We used to go to the skate ranch together.
He brought me to the ranch for the first time. I met Sluggo through Terry. He's a key name. A fucking. Like, for sure, a key name in Victoria skateboarding.
Definitely.
If you say you didn't know him back in the day, then you weren't really around.
So let me back up a little bit here. So we got to the Jax years. Was that was kind of the time that I think that we became a little older, and the focus went from skateboarding.
Yeah, kind of. That's what you got to remember, because like the Jax started. Like, I got in about 1990, and the bands were cool.
Okay, I'm putting it on pause for a sec. Because
things start changing now, though, big time. You got to start thinking about Mark Gonzalez has just done his first couple handrails, and guys like Hans and you and Miller and Jimmy Miller and shit are starting to really take it up a notch with the street skating and that.
I'm glad you introduced Jimmy Miller to that, because I don't know if I've skated with him downtown very much.
I got a picture of you in No Reason Zine. You got a photo. It's Jimmy Miller doing a handrail down the library.
Yeah, I know, but I wasn't there.
Oh, I thought you took the photo.
No, God, no.
Fuck him then.
Yeah. So you started actually. Speaking of which,
Sorry,
okay.
Jim.
So so a little bit more nostalgia here.
Love it when I go to
You had one of the first fanzines that I ever saw. You did a fanzine.
Oh, there's already zines coming out. So what was it? I'm trying to think. You had a bunch of zines when I was younger. I mean, everyone knew. One of my favorite skaters was Gary Scott Davis, GSD, and he had a zine called Skate. What was it? Skate Fate. Or one of those. I can't remember what he had a really cool zine. Caballero was Skate Fate. I can't remember what GSD. He had a cool zine.
You had a zine.
Yeah, there was a zine called Testicle Head. There was all these cool skate zines for real. And then, PD had the Daily Bread.
The Daily Bread.
Yeah, right. And so there was punk zines in Victoria. The first zine I saw was maybe when Jason Flowers put a metal zine out, and then what's his name? Jamie Fulton from Laos had Thrash Dance.
Kim Kinnikin had a rad zine.
Yeah, and there was Speedcore out of Vancouver, and we just got together. We started going to gigs and skating, and it's like,
what was the name of your zine, Dustin?
Well, we liked a TV show called The New Zoo Review when we were kids, and me and Hans Fear started a zine called The Poop Shoot Review, and yeah.
Sorry, what was it called?
The Poop Shoot Review. So there's a picture on the front cover of Ernie pulling Bert out of his anus. It was the start of Hans' great, stupid, silly drawing. And they'd be like, all that Hans did, like, I put the whole zine together, took all the photos, and Hans would just draw pictures of dudes like beating off and stuff in the corner of the zine. And
I really loved your Tofino article that you did in the Poop Shoot Review.
Let's not even talk about it.
I still have a copy of it.
Let's not talk about it. Iman does a dude.
No, you can't say it. You can't say it. We're not going to say it.
Let's just say that we are about as politically correct as Brockett at 99.
Yeah. Okay, so it was pretty fucking awful, actually. But
it wasn't, though. At the same time, we exposed Tofino. It's like,
but you know what? You know what? I gotta say, as totally inappropriate as what you wrote and what you said was, it was very fucking well written. I have to say, it was a well written paragraph.
That's funny. Yeah.
No, I'm serious. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a beautiful.
We were just doing our shit like Thrasher, though. Like, and some of those guys were great. And watching, listening, reading. I never actually was around to buy skateboarder magazines. An old Bay guy, Dave Magnance, once gave me like a stock of he gave me and Corey Jellic a stock of skateboarders, and I read some of those old CR Stesic, like his Dogtown stories were wicked.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, the Dogtown articles.
When he said, what's he say there? He goes, when you're riding down a hill 75 miles an hour and you wipe out and hit the pavement, it doesn't matter who the fuck you're riding for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
so it's like you want to start getting into that. And we just wanted to have fun. And it was weird because it started as a joke, but dudes would buy it. Like, we'd go, it was so fun to make them. My dad would go, "What are you doing?"
What you sold some?
Yeah, we made them all at my dad's glass shop. They were a quarter each. They were about a quarter each.
I don't remember paying because I think I was actually. I don't think you made me pay because I was a regular subject of some of the mockery, and I was also a contributor.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, you took off the picture. You were skating in it, for fuck's sake. So,
yeah. Nobody was. nobody was off limits either. Like,
oh no, we always got rid of our friends, man. You had to take like I said, it all comes back to those jocks calling us jerks at school.
You know what?
You gotta take the piss out of these guys. You gotta take a bit of a beating, man.
I mean, we ended up living in pretty much our own world. Let's talk about the climate of what it was like to be a skateboarder between 1985 and 1988, 89, around there. What was it like to be a skateboarder in Victoria and pretty much every, city, small city in North America? It was not easy to be a skateboarder.
Well, I remember having relatives that they were disappointed when they found out I skateboarded, and they're like, "Oh, really?" It's like, yeah. But
so they would find that out at like Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I'd be the guy with the long hair, wearing an accused shirt. It's not like I packed it in for the night, and I should. It says like, Dustin, go to the stupid family dinner and shut it. But it's like, yeah, man, I'm a skater. Everyone sucks. Tony Hawk's cool. You're a dick.
Is that what you did?
Kinda. I was kind of cocky.
So if you're gonna think I'm gonna act like this, I'm gonna act like this.
Yeah, man. Like I signed up for it. It's like it's too late to turn back. It's like fuck.
If you hadn't found skateboarding, what do you think you would have gotten really into?
I'd still probably maybe motocross or something like that. I'd still be into music. I'd probably be better musician. Like I'd probably be a better artist. So skateboarding kind of fucks everything up, but in a better way, it's held me down. If that sounds weird. Like there's tattoo artists I know, they're amazing. But it's like, and they concentrate, they focus more time on this or that, and I just haven't really learned that yet. I got to keep the skating. I got to make sure I skate every day. When I saw Tony Alba say he skates every day, at least try to wheel around every day or get to the bowls.
Did you ever have a moment where you're like, I'm more metal than I am skateboarding. Why do I skateboard? This is kind of fucking weird.
Never, and it's like it still is a problem with me. Is people are like, the Keg Killers played a while ago, and these guys are like, "Oh, I want to come home. I want to go back to your pad and crank some of your punk records." And I said, "I'm going to be cranking Uriah Heep when I get home, bro. We're going to be listening to some fucking Saxon, maybe some hookers, but it's not like I play punk rock every day. I like everything, and it all kind of it's hard for me. It was weird, like trying to all of a sudden now you just watch the Vans Pro Classics and they're playing the Scorpions, right, and Merciful Fate during people's runs. That wasn't cool in 1993. Like there was a time when it really started dodging out and the hip hop came in. And it's instead of trying to push this and that in guys' faces, I got along with my friends that were hip hop. It's like, okay, well, PD's doing the Nappy Dugout. Let's go over there and fucking hang out. And I'll wear my jean vest and listen to Ice-T. Why not?
What I was always stoked about was that you were very you didn't you were kind of you didn't try too hard though. You just did because you were really, really personable. You always like to chat with just about everybody because you don't talk when you're 20 feet away. I'll keep talking. Okay, grab a beer. The thing I liked was that you were the same with everybody, and really what it was all about was just having a good fucking time. You wanted to have a great time. And I love what you say about punk rock versus metal or sort of rock and roll, or at least classic rock, is that, and I agree, especially as I'm getting a bit older here, is that I love my fucking punk rock classics, but it's tough to listen to, say you're doing house cleaning at fucking 11 o'clock on a Saturday. It's hard to listen to 5 or 6 albums of, fucking super fast, ripping, fucking, yeah. No, you know what I listened to last time? The B-52s. Yeah, I did a house clean. The B-52s will clean your house better and quicker than any other music, in my opinion, that's out there. The B-52s.
I made a wore lipstick the last time I did my vacuuming because I cranked Lou Reed Transformer.
Yeah.
I loved every minute.
You know what Dave and I used to listen to all the time when we would be hanging out at his house late at night after skating all day and stuff? We'd listen to the fucking Cure. Mm-hmm. We'd like geek out to the Cure.
Yeah, man.
Dave would go, "Hey man, do you want me to go make you a 15-egg omelet?" And he'd go into his parents' house. He'd make a 15-egg omelet. It's a weird number, I know. And then he'd come in and I'd sleep at the foot of his bed on a foamy, and he'd put on fucking the Cure, like Boys Don't Cry or something.
Yeah, man.
And we go, "Hey man, it's like we were so punk rock earlier today, but now
but there was stuff back then you didn't talk about. Like I listened to music back then. Like I say, like me and Morrison were really into heavy metal. I'm really into Scorpions. Really, you didn't tell people downtown in 1987 that you liked Dawkins, and I love Dawkins. George Lynch is my favorite guitar
because
player.
those are the guys were chasing us. They had Dawkins back patches.
Yeah, when I saw Kelly Solar, and I said, "Why did Blasphemy get a skateboard on PD's? On Skull Skates, you guys get your own model. You guys used to chase skaters." And he's like, "Yeah, we contributed to you guys riding." So
You had to get better at skateboarding to avoid the blasphemy. Fucking no. Those guys were fucking. You know what?
I was so happy to buy that board, man.
Those guys were at least they. I don't know. And you knew him better than I did. But you know what? I never had a problem with them when I had a skateboard on my arm.
Great guys. So
hanging out at the fucking Ivanhoe, and they were pretty cool.
Yeah, man. And they're still around,
they're still around.
They're a staple, and it's like. You talk about BC.
And everybody gets a bit tame, or don't they, when they turn 30 and they're 40?
You're metal, dude. I know blasphemy, really. Yeah, those guys will metal your medals.
Kelly probably just wants to fucking play music, hang out with his friends.
He jammed with me and Willie and those guys last
Exactly.
year.
You guys did a song.
Yeah.
What was the name of that?
We actually with Solar actually jammed out with us.
What was the name of the band that you created for 2 nights?
I think we were called Jaculators or some shit like that, and we actually turned into Fully Crazed.
Well, what about that song you did with Stinky Mark?
Well, that turned into stuff to be Fully Crazed.
So that's Fully Crazed?
Yeah, because it evolved into Fully Crazed, and Solar was just too busy. Like, we couldn't just have...
You need Stinky Mark to be singing in a band, right?
Oh, yeah, he's great.
He's very good. What's the best, song for song, Canadian punk rock album of all time?
Oh, for me, it's different, right?
Tell me.
My number one favorite would be No One Else Wanted to... Or, sorry.
That's
no
a comp.
To play.
No, that's SNFU, right? SNFU.
That'd be number one.
That's a perfect comp.
Number 2 for me is going to be Personality Crisis.
Okay.
For a while.
Perfect.
Number 3 for me.
Beyond Possession is Beyond Possession.
Nah, it's good. I like the record, but that's metal and it comes later. So I don't put BP as a punk.
What? Yeah. What? You don't think Beyond Possession is a punk band? No, Are you fucking serious? Hardcore? Are they hardcore?
No, they're heavy metal.
They're not fucking heavy metal.
I disagree.
The next album after that.
I put both of them. I put all the Possession shit.
No.
Yeah, man. I look at the first Beyond Possession EP. The way I look at the
does Ron Hadley know you think that album was a heavy metal album?
I don't give a fuck what he thinks.
I would like to know what Ron Hadley. I would like to know what Hadley.
Hadley's probably listening. He's on the Jacks. He wouldn't care.
I would like to know what Hadley thinks of. Actually, I would like to know what he thinks that album is. What does Ron Hadley think?
That's a fucking metal record. What's the label it's on?
It is not a fucking...
What label is it on?
It's on Metal Blade. All right.
They're on a compilation called Death Metal.
So what?
But so was DRI on that.
Death Metal was a... Death Metal was a...
The fucking Mentors are
exactly.
metal, but they are.
Exactly.
They're on Metal Blade.
Because they were never punk. The Mentors weren't punk.
You can't be punk rock if you're having sex with 9 million women.
Okay, you know what we have to talk about at some point here tonight? Was the time that you stayed over at my house in 1987 and we drew in a book a bunch of drawings, and then because of those drawings my parents found the drawings and I had to have a family meeting because they thought I was troubled. Okay, I just made Dustin walk away. This podcast is...
Now you're digging out some shit from the past.
This podcast is getting fucking good, and we're at the 1 hour and 25 minutes mark. I'm not even going to stop because this is the first ever episode. It's Go Skateboarding Day. We're about 2 or 3 Paps Blue Ribbon in.
One thing we never did get done today, you guys, we are on Gordon Heads. We didn't go skate the Gordo Skate Park.
We might do that later.
Okay. Try to get out there.
So let me keep talking here, Dustin, because now we're getting into some good stuff here. Okay, so. You're talking about me drawing a couple of dicks in a book that got you in crap. It was not a couple of dicks. It was not a couple of dicks. It was disturbing, and I was thinking about it the other day. It is fucking disturbing, some of the shit that we did. If I walked, okay, I am not a father, okay, right? But if I heard from one of my good friends like you or Dave or somebody who said, I went in and I found a book that my son has been drawing in, and it's got pictures of yada 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 that he drew that are depicting these scenes. Yada yada.
You guys was called Skull Fuck Grandma.
Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm really gonna earn my ratings
now. It up.
Okay, I know, but dude, okay. So my parents come home after this weekend away, and Dustin's been allowed to come over and stay from Victoria, and he stayed at my house in.
I wonder who he blamed.
In the West End. Look, you didn't have the fucking family meeting. I did.
Oh, that was that time after.
I had to sit down with my dad and my stepmom and tell them why I drew those pictures.
You know what Jake forgot to tell you guys? Him and Jellic were all trying to get into this chick's pants that weekend, and so it was a good time.
It wasn't even her pants. That's not the drawings.
You guys got so
I'll say one initial.
Jake and Jellic got so wasted they both passed out. Someone fell on the deck.
Dude, I was 16. I didn't know how to get wasted. I didn't know how to get wasted. I was 16.
You know what was the soundtrack album that weekend? It just come out. Celtic
Beyond,
Frost.
No, it wasn't. It was
Mexican radio.
It was Eye Against Eye. It was eye against eye. No, it's getting good. It's getting good. We're getting into the gravy here. Okay. So first of all, I can't believe that you think Beyond Possession is a fucking metal album.
Yeah, man. I got it right here. I got the 7-inch. I just played it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They blew Suicidal Tendencies off the stage at the New York Theater in 1980. Was it 87?
Yeah.
Okay, that was metal. All right. I'm going to switch topics because I fucking disagree.
Excel. They couldn't play, so Fratricide played.
Fratricide.
Suicidal.
Fratricide is not metal.
Suicidal. Join the armies.
No. It's called Crossover.
Oh, yeah. Crossovers. That's like saying... It's like
no.
saying instead of piss.
No, it's not. It's called Crossover for a reason.
Crossover is called Crossover when a punk band makes a metal record.
Exactly. But it's still... Okay, Suicidal Tendencies.
The Accused were never a punk band.
There you go, Suicidal Tendencies. They became metal.
Their first album was even punk, though. It's not a punk record when it has lead solos like that. And I Shot Reagan, man? Fuck, that's bad.
That was so punk!
It wasn't, though.
You thought Suicidal Tendencies self-titled out
is a heavy metal record.
Oh my god! Now you know what? We're gonna have to have a new show. It's called "Fuck Dustin." I totally don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No way, dude.
.com.
No, you can tell.
All right.
Hadley. Beyond Possession played tons of. They played metal bills and they played. We're gonna have. Okay, listen. We're gonna cut to a spot right here, right now. But when we edit this, I'm gonna have a comment from Ron Hadley. What he says about this right now. Hadley will talk to us.
Well, he will, but he's not. Can't do it live. Okay. So seriously,
I feel bad though for the fact that record by Beyond Possession's on Metal Blade Records because it's a metal record.
Yeah, I'd really feel sorry for a fucking band that made the best punk rock fucking album. You know what? I'll say. You know what I'll say. This is what I'll say. This is what I'll say. It's the best skate rock album that Canada ever produced.
Oh yeah, totally.
Beyond Possession is Beyond Possession. One of them. No,
yeah.
Is the best.
Yeah, but do you have Sudden Impact, No Rest?
Yes, exactly. I had that album. Toronto, that album sucked compared to Beyond Possession. I am totally fucking right. They're out of Ottawa.
Plus, I was in Shutdown.
They're out of Toronto.
That was the best skate rock album ever, man.
Now you're pushing it. He's fucking self-promoting son of a bitch. All right.
Yeah, Beyond Possession was great.
We've had a few drinks now, and things are getting a little bit lubricated. So, you started... Okay, after skateboarding, you never gave a shit about getting in competitions or anything like that.
I kind of did, but I lost my neck, right? Like by the
but
time,
you know what you did? You know what you did before anybody else did? You went down to fucking California in what year?
I skated Del Mar and Upland in '87.
Tell me about that trip because you sent me photos.
It was crazy, dude. It was fucking crazy, and no one was there to be with me. So it's like no one knows. It's just I was there. And
you had some photos though.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got photos of you fucking carving.
Yeah, I got the full pipe. I dropped in it. My dad made me. He walked me around the corner and made me drop into the combi, fucking 4 feet. And at that point, like the big deal was dropping into stuff. We had pretty big ramps on the island. I just dropped in on the Balmoral ramp.
What year was that? How old were you?
87. I was 17, so it was the spring.
God, you were fucking small because I look at those photos and we were so tiny still.
This lady came up to me in the parking lot. I had long hair and she went, "It's so good to see girls skating these days." And I was wearing a Raw Power shirt. I was so mad. Riding my Godoy. And but Bud, Uplands was easier to get into. Because you could just ride there for the day. But
okay, what happened? Tell me about checking in. You had to pay a membership?
Well, my parents went to Disneyland, right? And my mom said, I said to Bud, I said, "Hey, can I go to the comps or to the parks?" Because I'd heard in an article that they were going to tear them both down. And I said, "This is it." And Bud said, "Why not? Let's go." And he said to my mom, "You take Andrea to Disneyland, so her ticket's going to be $1 million, right? Because that shit's expense." And Bud said, "I'll take the kid to the parks." And so Bud went to Upland first, and he hung around and talked to skate moms. Upland was cool. They let me buy a 3-day membership, I think, for $40, and I skated 2 days there. And when I went to Del Mar, my dad had to lie and just basically bribe those guys. I think he bought him a bottle of Wild Turkey and gave him some money and pretended he goes, "Yeah, I live
this is a good father."
Yo, he was rad, and he was like, "Yeah, I just live up over there around the stretch there. My kid wants to skate here." So, and I go, "Dad, I want to buy a skateboard off this guy," and he goes, "Who the hell is this guy?" I'm like, "It's Billy Ruff."
Dad.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Brian, I'm Dad. Hey, how much for the board? And Billy Ruff sold me a GNS fiber.
Who was like what, a month older than you? Yeah. I mean, he couldn't have been much older.
Oh no, he was older. Billy Ruff was in the first wave. Like he was one of the early GNS skaters.
Was he a bit older then?
Yeah, he was older than Blender and those guys.
Because that's the first.
That's why he was out early.
That's what Doug Holloway owned.
John had the first Billy Ruff with the hand. A friend of
that was the board I learned to skate on. That was the board I learned to skate on.
A guy from Gordon Head, like all these Gordo guys were cool, but it was just too much for them. Like this guy named Mike Dickey skated, and we loved him, but it was just too much. The old.
Take a break here. Do your thing. Do your thing while I tell people about the first skateboard that I ever that I ever rode.
Yep.
And it was Doug Holloway. And
we were talking about our first boards for a second, for sure. Yeah.
We were at junior high, and Doug had just moved from Edmonton. He was this kid, was a bit older. He was held back a year or something like that, and he was because he was a badass.
Who, Doug's a year older?
He was a badass in a fucking red. He's the same age as you.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
And he shows up and he goes, "We're watching these two kids skate in the rain in these brand new fucking boards." And he says that he goes like, "Those kids are fucking idiots, man. They're skating in the rain. They're gonna bash their shit up. They're gonna waterlog it. They're gonna ruin their bearings and all this." And I'm like, "You don't really look like a skater. You know, do you have a board?" And he goes, "Yeah, I have one at home."
Yeah.
So we go back to his house that afternoon. I'm like, let's go back and skate it. True story. We go all the way fucking back along the train tracks. We get into his garage. It's in a box. It's all in pieces. We spent the afternoon putting it together. By the end of the night, Doug was showing me some of his, he was able to do 360s, a little 180 ollie scoop, little shuffle scoop thingies, where you could like sort of get some ollie, and then I would try it and I'd eat shit.
I tried the first ollies I learned were the 180s that Brent Dobie showed me that you guys met. One thing that was key for skateboarding that we never did bring up was summer school at Central. You guys all whoever failed went to summer school and would come back to my hood with new tricks, because it's like, I saw Clay Dealey, I saw Brooks Cohen, I saw fucking Matt Jubb, I saw fucking Crispin Giles, all these different names you hear from different guys at different schools that were fucking deadbeats, so they go to summer school and they'd be showing off at lunchtime. And so Monk came out, right? Monk bought a fucking Tom Grohalski board off Tim Bolin and gave it to Lemke. So Monk was BMX back then still, right?
We kind of shuffled off. What were we talking about before?
First.
So you're down in California. I remember being stoked that you were going down there. I remember you.
I was upset because I was dating. I remember I was dating some chick, Vanessa, I think, or one of those idiots. Sorry, pardon my French, but I was just
she was a beautiful girl.
Yeah, it was one of those things where all of a sudden you want to date your girlfriend and your parents are like, we're going to California. And I remember at first I was bummed.
You know what? If it was Vanessa Allen, she was stoked for you.
She was great back then.
She was a badass, dude.
But she's like, everyone's like, yeah, go to Cali. But my dad said, we were talking about it. I kind of wasn't into it. And I said, can I stay here where you guys go? And my dad said, well, do you want to go to the parks? And I said, what parks? He said, well, because I heard, he knew about that stuff, man. He was into it too. It wasn't stupid. He'd done research. He was looking at transitions when they went to build my ramp. They were looking at transitions. So we went down there and skated those places. He got me into Upland, which people don't know when they see that stuff is how brutally kinked it was. And like it was crazy. Like you think a ramp is kinked, cement was different. It was like
so like it would be like riding the Nanaimo Park.
Yeah, weird. But it was cool though. I was trying to compare stuff to it. Whenever I get scared of something, I always compare it to the combi pool. And so on the other end, when I went to Del Mar, my dad tried all this stuff to hook me up. And I remember I didn't get in there till nighttime. It was like twilight. It was 8 at night. It was getting dark out. And I just put this new Billy Ruff board together. And I went right down the rolling and went right the fuck out and did a frontside air. And it was the best feeling air I'd done in my life. And it was kinked and weird. But it was just something about Del Mar. When you go back and watch those sessions, like there's certain areas where it's like it just kicks you out. Like you'll watch a guy do a trick.
So the walls of the transitions aren't necessary. Weren't necessarily congruent. They weren't.
Every part was different. So this is before guys knew how to build parks, right?
Right. Well, that's what I thought about Nanaimo, because that's what would fuck you up at Nanaimo is you drop in and be certain steepness, and the other side be totally different.
So I went to Sydney last week and I thought it was a kink, but Jimmy's like, no, that's a speed push. You got to hit it right. That's why it's like
where
in Sydney in the new bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fucking badass, man. You can get fucked up out there, but pardon my French, but the street course is really
He's
cool.
not French.
The street oh yeah. Paul Delmaffin. The street course is really cool out there.
See?
There's a remake of the Bastion Wall. There's all sorts of objects and stuff.
What?
Yeah, you'll see it, man.
They don't know what the Bastion Wall was back in fucking Sydney.
I could tell them.
Who built the park out in Sydney? Who built the park?
I think Jim Barnum's boys. It's fucking great.
So is it Spectrum then?
New Line.
Well, then it's not Jim Barnum.
Okay.
It's Kyle Dion.
Yeah, it's great.
Those guys are doing well, man.
I watched Doug Hardy get on the corner and he went like grosso long all the way around. Like it's nice coping. It's cool. I'm not gonna hate on the new Vic West though, man. I love it. I love the ear.
You know what, man?
The Nathan Gillespie Park. They took Nathan's park and made it even better.
It's still the Nathan Gillespie skate park to me, man.
That's why you should get a little plaque there too.
Well, we're gonna do a better one for Jamer. That's the idea. At least that's my idea.
I was gonna say, talk to if you're out there, Kenny Mann at Mortimer's Monumental Works on Victoria, BC.
Yeah,
here.
Dustin's doing a plug for his buddies who own a monument.
Me and my dad, dude. Want to hear a real story? Me and my dad were doing a job for him, we were in Nelson, BC. We like had a portable sandblasting gun. We carried to this tombstone because it's like this family, right? And all these dudes are buying the fucking farm. So Uncle Tom dies or whatever, and we got to go add a new name onto this grave. Me and my dad have had a couple of beer out back, and we take the sandblasting unit out to the grave site there, and get all the lettering all ready, and I carve it out, and we sandblast it and shit. And then we get a call back from this dude. He's like, "You guys put the wrong year," because the guy died. It was like Bud wrote 97, but it looked like a 1, so I carved a 1 on it. Bro, and me and my dad sandblasted the wrong year. Did you guys get paid for the job, or what do you do when you do something that bad? You do a new one. It was a 1, bro. It was a 1, so we turned it into a 7, bro. We just swung it over a bit and carved.
What, with a jiffy marker or something?
Oh, no, we had to re-sandblast it.
Okay.
We took the stuff back in there.
So you repaired it
without telling the guy, and said, Bud's like, "What are you talking about? Is your guy high? What's going on here, you fucking jack?" And the guy was like, "Oh, our deepest apologies." Like, that was the kind of shit I do with Bud.
That's the sort of stuff. Stop worrying about your French. There's an actual disclaimer at the beginning of the show. You have to look towards the microphone, though.
My band, the Keg Killers, I asked Jason Lamb at Zone FM. We've had our record out for months, and I said, "Can we please play a record?"
How many songs do you have that have swear words in them? That don't have swear words? So there you go. There you go.
What was the song content?
It's your own fault.
Apparently, we couldn't have songs about necrophilia or bestiality.
How about just one of the aphalities or the
We made up new alities, bro.
I believe you did.
Yeah.
So
we gave Albert Fish a run for his money, and that guy used to stick lit cotton batting up his bum and run around at night saying he was Jesus. Yeah. That's saying a lot to all our Christians out there.
Okay, so I love that it's Go Skateboarding Day, and we've just covered about every skateboarding topic
right up to the
in and around. We're gonna have to
come back to the 90s. We have to come back and do the 90s in a whole different kind of stretch.
Why are the 90s important, Dustin?
Well, there were still indoor ramps in that, and the park started getting built. Like the first Vic West got built, Kenny Chow had a fucking ramp. Let's talk about
here. There's people out there. Kenny Chow? There's people. Yeah, well, Kenny Chow's out there, and he was out there.
Some of the ramps. Chris Jones had a great
listen. No, we're not going to talk about Chris right now. We're going to talk about Kenny. Okay, let's talk about Kenny Chow. Kenny was on the Jacks.
Yes, he was.
You know what? We didn't. You know what? Let me back up a little bit. I got a perfect segue. I got some segue because we never finished talking about the Jacks. I want to know what happened with the Jacks. How did the Jacks grow? This is an interesting topic for me because Jacks are worldwide. Tell me how the Jacks team grew after you and Mark got on the team.
Well, they'd ask us if we wanted to put another guy on, and we'd just say, well, yeah, we should maybe. There was always guys that were around us, so it's like, I mean. Originally, it was like there's like Jono looked like Spicoli, and he listened to Van Halen, and he did Backside Eras. So I mean, that's Jax, man.
And he was into surfing and shit.
Yeah, man.
And he was a dude.
Yeah, and guys liked him, and the chicks were all over his
I remember meeting Jono for the first time with you and Carrot Top.
Those guys, they were blonde-haired soccer players from Gordo. They didn't. It was a no-effort gig to get a woman kicking around those guys.
He was an athlete.
Yeah, and he was rad. And he like the first, like me and John grew up listening to Van Halen.
You went to school together.
Yeah, big time. We loved Halen.
You went to Gordo together.
But the first, I think me and John probably, we had a friend of ours who had a record show at CFUV, and we weren't into the Ramones yet. It's just one of those things. We both got the first Ramones record at the same time as we both got the first Bad Brains tape, and that was like, it set us up. It was like a fucking double 1-2 punch on our psyche, man.
But it's funny, kind of funny though. What Bad Brains album were we talking about?
The first one, the Roar cassette. Yeah, so me and John, rather than instead of going to jock parties in high school, every Friday night we go to the beach and smoke weed and listen to the Bad Brains and the Ramones. Then we started our band, the fucking Dudes, the FDs. Yeah, we were a real band at Mount Doug.
Is that your first band?
Yeah, one of them. But that. I was in a band called Grave Dust. We played a talent show in grade 7.
A fucking Grave Dust.
Yeah. So me and my friend Paul Burke, who's a surgeon now, and George Cuthbert runs fishing charters, and we played the riff for Pat Benatar, "Hit Me With Your Best Shot."
Okay, you can't keep up with this, so we got to stick to one topic, Dustin.
Yeah. So the first band was the fucking Dudes in Mount Doug with Jono. We had a lot of sacrifice. I remember Jono quitting some of the. He was a really good athlete at Mount Doug on the soccer team and that, and he didn't. I don't think he played the last year because we were doing the skating.
Did all the girls like him?
Yeah, definitely.
He was a pretty boy, wasn't he?
Well, I think his brother had sex with everything on Gordon Head except for some of the parking lampposts out here, and that's about it.
So he was like Sean Penn and Chris Penn.
Oh yeah, it was great. So just knowing those guys was cool. But at the same time, like I said, that by grade 12 though, people were kind of tripped out. Like all this, me and Jono and Angus were the first. We were going to Long Beach. We were going to Jordan River.
You guys were road tripping
all the time.
I remember we road tripped together before we were out of high school.
It was always about getting out of town. You know, we'd hang with Jillian Donaldson, and we had a cool crew. Angus. So I mean,
and we'd go to Van.
Angus built a quarter pipe in front of his house that was 6 feet high. Like,
did it have vert?
If you wiped out on that shit, dude, you were wearing a hip sack, and you have a squirt gun and a mustache. You're one of those guys,
right? I can't skate anymore. Yeah. I can't skate anymore. I slammed. Okay, so
she's like, that's not.
Apparently, Dustin is French. Okay, so no, this is fucking awesome. I'm curious because this is the Dustin that was getting skateboarding going in Gordon Head.
A lot of guys.
So you.
The thing is, there was guys before us in Gordon Head.
So who were the next crew of jacks that came after Dustin and Mark?
Jono McGee, freestyle, Mike Ratcliffe. Ratcliffe couldn't even skate. But I saw him
best frontside boneless 180s.
Well, no, don't get me wrong. He learned how to skate really good after a while. He'd do great stuff, But at the same time, like, so when he got on the jacks, he maybe would do the odd boneless and skate banks.
Really good bonuses.
The guy was jumping off of balconies to fight guys, man. Like totally. And I watched him.
He was better at protecting me from getting beaten up than he was at skateboarding. But he was really pretty good at skateboarding. So
he got really good at it. No, he didn't. He was just in there, man.
Mike was one of our friends who
I took him to a party in Vancouver, and one of the jacks said, "Why the fuck isn't he a jack?" Yeah, straight up. And when you hear shit like that, because
okay, so I'm gonna ask you this, and I think I can answer the question because it's the reason why I'm not a jack.
They wanted skateboarders out of Victoria.
Why? What is a jack? What is a jack?
A jack's. That's hard to explain, man.
That's why I'm asking you that question.
I can't even really answer that. It's just
well, you're gonna.
You gotta like the trip. It's like, well, this guy. If we put this guy on the team, can he put a bunch of guys up at his house? If we put this guy on the team, will he Matlock? I watched the guy take a spare tire and hitchhike to Mexico, man, and come back to our car with 2 cops driving him with a 2 for a beer and a fixed tire. It's like, will the guy do that for you?
What did he fucking do?
We had a fucking we had a blown out tire in Mexico. We're like, Matlock, you got to go get a tire.
Where was the reunion?
Mexico in Tijuana.
What? The reunion was in TJ.
Yeah, we're coming back and our car broke down. We had a flat tire. Me and Willie were like, Matlock, you're the petitioner because he was the new guy.
What year was this?
96. And we're like, you have to go and you have to take this tire and get it fixed. So Matlock turns around like this, has a swill of the beer. A car's driving by. He goes, the car stops. He takes a spare tire. Half an hour goes by. We're like, where the fuck is he? And like, we're not even worrying yet. We're just sitting there kicking it and just hanging out, and all of a sudden we see is that the cops? And we see a cop coming behind us, man. And all of a sudden it turns its lights on because Matlock's like, hey, turn your lights on and scare him. And it's Matlock gets out of the car with a spare tire. So he got it fixed.
Yeah, so he wanted to be on the team.
Well, he just did shit like that, right? It's just do shit like that.
So the motto is absolute skateboarding.
And skateboarding.
Absolute music.
If you're into music, you're into skateboarding. Those guys like John was in Breach. Breach was getting good. They were into that, but he was also good on a ramp. And they're like, and he could skate. I took John to Griffin and Sealand Park, and the guys already know him. Like Mike, I think Mike met Jono when I wasn't even with him.
But okay, so
those guys were ripping on snowboards. Was back then. It was cool. Freestyle was ripping. Freestyle just stopped doing street style. That was his nickname, right? He was riding vert and doing Smith grinds and guys liked him. So it was the early jacks. It wasn't anything to do with me because I was just a little puppet. The early jacks was those guys saying, "We want this guy on next. We want this guy on next." Steve Chase would come over, remember? Yeah. Or TA would hang out. All those guys would come over one by one and hang out, right?
No, I said the reasons I'm not a jack, and I was gonna say that there was a certain.
Well, you could have always been if you wanted.
No, but see that, but that's the thing is what was the decider there for me was how much are you willing to show that you want to be.
Oh yeah, it was too much.
And you said what Matlock did, and it's not that I wouldn't have done that for my friends, but he was willing to go down to Mexico to do it.
Matlock had already been like, remember guys were a dick to him when he was younger in Victoria.
Yeah,
hands with me to him.
Yeah, no. Yeah. But I like that because it don't talk from over there.
Come on.
The thing that makes sense to me, and there was a certain sort of like, I tell people
when I first
people will ask me, let me finish this. People will ask me, what's the jacks thing all about? And I say, well, it's absolute music, it's absolute skateboarding, but ultimately it's pirate life.
Big time.
There's a certain sort of pirate.
But there's a huge connection with punk rock music. And
of course. That's why it's absolute music.
We all grew up listening to the Circle Jerks and the Germs in LA. We love the LA stuff, but when I first met Mark,
you had to be willing to be a pirate.
Yeah, but when I first met Mark and Ian was when I first started hearing what we would call the San Francisco punk. So I heard Fang. Right. I heard Verbal Abuse. Right. I heard fucking Sick Pleasure. I lost my mind. So when I heard fucking Tales of Terror and Rat's Ass, so it was all about the Jacks worked up with that. Right. You know, we're downtown, bro. I'm looking at Slayer records, and my friend's like, screw that, look at this. And Mike Ian showed me the cover of Verbal Abuse, Rocks Your Liver, with the Rats. And I saw a dude sitting there with Jacks covers. It's like I said, once again, that was cooler than Tony Hawk and Metallica combined. I'm like, this is it.
For those of you out there who are listening, and I haven't said much to you,
a huge connection with music.
If you're listening and you don't know anything about the Jacks team, there's one skateboard team that has sort of been. This is what's funny is I watched. Let me finish this. There was this episode in Thrasher or an issue in Thrasher about the skate gangs, and it was about 5-6 years ago. And there's this whole world that is there's a modern world that these young skaters that these like guys like the Shep Dogs and all these, they have their new crews. We're talking about stuff that goes back 10-15 years before any of these teams are even talking about, right? The Jacks team is not going to be in Thrasher magazine right now. But if you ask any if you ask any San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, Vancouver, British Columbia skateboarder who's been around more than 10 years, who the most down skateboarding crew badasses are out there that still exist, that still meet once a year somewhere on the western, the west coast of the United States or Canada, it's the Jacks team. They did something in Thrasher years ago about it. They mentioned it, but it's like what's weird is that it's never been really recognized.
But they don't want to be. They are.
I know they don't want to be, and that's awesome. But it's like Skatopia, which is because I think if someone tried to co-op or try to kind of use the Jacks team for profit or their own whatever, is that it would get fucking rejected.
I think pretty soon, like Ricky Long was working on
it won't happen. It might happen, but
he was working on a really cool yearbook, and this thing's getting away with stuff like that. And also things have slowed down with the whole Trump thing and that, so we'll see. The reunion this year was a little less organized, so I don't know if everyone's going.
So where's the reunion this year?
It's in Lake Shasta.
How many Jacks team members are there in Victoria?
I couldn't even tell. Now I don't know.
Roughly.
We got probably about
roughly. I was told there
21.
were 20. Yeah, 20. 20.
Yeah, 20 ballpark.
It's interesting that you said 21.
The first guys, you got there'd be me, Mark, Ian, Jono, Freestyle.
Yeah, there's a lot of names. Kelly, you don't have to name them all.
Elliot Pollard.
How many?
You guys forget that Elliot Pollard's a Jack?
Well,
you guys forget that Jeremy Atkinson got put on?
Jeremy's fucking a dude.
He's badass, but he doesn't wear the colors.
Sure he does. I think he wore it out there when the Mackenzies played in Cumberland.
Okay, good. Yeah, because he's Jacks all through and through, and guys.
He is because he's a fucking ripping skater.
Guys who got a beef with that can fuck with the steak knives. Man,
nobody's got a beef with that.
Yeah, those guys are incredible.
Nobody's got a beef with that. I hope not.
We just put a guy on the Jacks team who's been hanging around the Jacks for 30 years, even longer. Pat Black finally has colors. We're just fucking flipping about that because he's a.
Finally, are you serious?
He's a skate pro for Embassy.
Oh fuck! Finally, man. I fucking love Pat Black.
Pat missed the Vans Classic last year, you guys, because he busted his ankle up.
I lived with that guy for about 3 weeks. Him and Jill Donaldson over in Vancouver, and he was super cool. I was such a dirtbag.
And he's the only guy who has pool coping. Do you guys see that thing on his ramp? He's got a rod. He's got a piece of angle going around with pool balls on it.
How did he not get put on the team for as long as he did?
He never wanted to be.
So what's the difference? What did he do one day?
He just didn't want to be on.
He said, "Guys, I'm ready to be on the team."
Well, they just sent him. This is kind of.
That's not his voice, actually.
A guy named Sport. Yeah, it is kind of.
Is it?
Sporticus came up with a concept of the Chrome division. We're bugging the shit out of those guys, eh?
The Chrome div?
Chrome Dome, like going bald.
Oh, you're all gray. You're all gray and silver and sexy.
But anyways, that's cool though, because basically the Chrome Dome div means that after Chrome Domes was Omar Hassan's gang because they wore silver helmets.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly. And he has no hair whatsoever.
The Chrome Jacks div though is you've been on the team for 30 years or more. So that's not me, man. I got a while to go still.
Another 8, 5, 6, 7 years.
5 years or something. Yeah. Three, dude. The cool thing was that it brought a lot of guys out of the woodwork that hadn't been around for a while that are rad. You know, guys who've been through addictions and back to normal, like Tommy Hansen and Bill McCracken, man. These are all rad guys who just didn't know that guys gave a shit about them. You know, and it's like, hey, come and get your thing, man. And they're like, what? So that was really cool. And some of these guys, it gives them sort of a spark too. So, and there's a lot of sober jacks, you know, and there's a lot of guys that look like a fucking bucket of shit.
That's what happens with everybody that's a badass and cool. Is they eventually die, or they go to jail, or they get their shit together.
You know, something like Dwayne Peters' behavior in the last year hasn't helped us too much, man.
So what happened? Do you know did Dwayne Peters put his Jacks colors on?
Yeah, he got put on the team. I mean,
no. But did he put them on eBay
for sale? So
did he? Was it eBay?
Instagram. He wanted $1,500 for them, and
$1,500 for his colors.
Cruz,
so he's an honorary member.
Yeah, which sucks because those guys stopped doing honoraries.
So I understand why you
Tom's on. Like
I understand why you would put Dwayne Peters on the Jacks honorary.
I understand.
No, but not you personally.
Tom Scott and those guys did.
I understand.
Honorary, man. Like this is like.
Well,
like
what is he then?
He got put on by Alva and Tom Scott.
Is Tony Alva a Jack?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tony Alva's a Jack.
Mark Ball. I'm not going to argue with those guys. They're fucking OG.
I don't know. Does Tony Alva know he's a Jack?
Yeah.
I've never seen him rep Jack stuff. Has he ever?
Probably never will.
Actually, that's not true because in the movie Thrashing, he let that shit happen.
Tony Alva.
Jax was on the side of that shit.
He was in a band with a guy named Mark Ball called the Scoundrels back in the day, and I've got a few gig posters that say Jax on it. And you seen the picture in Thrasher where the guys have fallen off the fence and Alva's lying on the ground with he's wearing his colors, and it's in Thrasher. It's an independent ad, and it shows the Jax team. They're trying to climb into a pool, and Alva's fallen.
What year?
It's like '83. Oh, Gorman had it.
That's fucking cool.
Alva is he'll tell you that.
Okay, man.
I got a message.
So what's the future? Tell me? Look, when's the reunion?
I was at the skate comp last weekend and I watched. There's older guys we still want to get on the team. That Eric guy's a maniac from Mill Bay. Eric Shostello. What's his name?
What about Merrick?
Oh, totally. If that guy's not a Jack,
well, he's
pissed.
You know what?
But he's too good. He should be.
You got to put the kid on the team. He's you know what his godfather is Carlos, basically.
But the thing is that Merrick shouldn't have to go through the whole. He doesn't need to go through the petition shit.
No, he shouldn't have to. That's what
Jack should be honored to have a guy like that.
That's what I think. Okay. In my opinion, and I'm not one of the team members, but when
I saw DeMarcus James down south, he goes, "Do you want to sign my shit?" And I went, "Yeah, I do." And so I signed it, and because he did that frontside invert, and I made 4 other guys sign it. I'm like, sign this guy's shit.
But I think that's the sort of dude you want on the team. Because you want to keep the team skateboarding.
I like the hippie kids from
right?
Langford. No,
right?
I like
it can't be just about partying and music. It needs to be about skateboarding.
But it's got to be cool skateboarding too. And
that Merrick kid fucking rips.
Yeah, so does Sean Rowbottom. So does Justin Ellerback. You know, so does Fenton. All those idiots, right? Fenton is a fucking liability. Fenton was gonna be on the team this year, but he got arrested for he did something obscene in a bouncy castle. But he got arrested up east or up east.
He's a good. You know what? When I see him skate,
he's got about 24 names on his petition, so he'll be next.
Well, you know what? He is.
Love him down
you know
there.
What? Okay, when I said something about living like a pirate for a certain amount of time, Fenton is a pirate.
Yeah, and he's gone through all that crap with his sister and the court cases and that. And the RCMP.
Oh, okay. Now you got to say shit like that.
So
I gotta delete it now.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, Dustin, this has been.
Yeah, what's his name too? Is it still rolling?
It's still rolling, man.
As far as the Jacks go too,
we're almost 2 hours.
Those Langford kids, all the kids that are riding six side, you know, that Brando's raising. Brando was a big influence to the skateboarding in Vic. So
well, there's so much more to talk about. Let me try to segue into.
Two-part.
You know, this is gonna have to be.
We're the 90s.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. There's so much more that we haven't touched on. I gotta say though, here the reason why.
Got some gold here, eh?
Yeah, the reason why I had you on the show was, like I said, you know, the first time I met you, it was such a good memory. We had so much fun, like skating the kiddie pool with Mark Morrison.
We're in my half pipe too, man. Like,
6'2", fucking could hardly even fit in the kiddie pool.
We were the first guys. We were writing Misfits on our boards on a grip tape.
Dude,
we saw Gons.
I
learned was doing art.
I learned how to draw the Misfits logo by like I'd be blindfolded and I could draw it because of you. You
had that rad SMA board, man. That it was like a Nautis, but it wasn't. Remember that SMA you had?
He'd come over to my house for dinner, and he'd call my mom, Jake's mom. Hey, Jake's mom, and she'd be like, "Oh, Dustin, you're so funny." And, you know, we'd go skate Gordon Head, and you'd take me to your parents' house for dinner, and Bud would go, get down off the table, you know, and stuff like that. And we'd be smoking weed out in the backyard, and he'd go, what are you guys doing out there?
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, it was really, it was.
Man, you know that I never did really smoke weed with Bud. Like, he was that dad who's like, don't smoke weed. And then he'd be smoking it by himself with his buddies. The best was when you guys came to skate my ramp.
There's lots of dads like that back then.
I had to do community hours. And I said, you guys show up in my drive. I think it was like you and Dave Knight and Alex Morrison and Doug Easton. And I said, you guys can't skate my ramp today, man. I've got to go do my community hours because I got busted lighting a dumpster on fire.
Oh, I remember
and
that.
Bud went, the fuck they can't. You guys can skate all day. Get the fucking work, Dustin. You know, that was awesome.
Oh,
fuck.
like,
so I remember, I was like, you guys are skating my ramp while I'm at Bottle Depot smashing bottles.
I remember going there and being so intimidated because I didn't know how to pump fakie. I didn't know how to.
Got it quick though.
I didn't know how to kick turn. And again, I'm surprised. I'm glad you reminded me of Jeff Keenly sides because I remember skating Keenly sides in Fairfield.
Me and you and Keenly side all ended up running, and same with Mark. All those guys, we all ended up going to bigger ramps. You know, Lemke kind of. It sucks because Lemke would have been great, but him and that was the end. Like it was funny.
He needed a big ramp.
Him and Belfer they kind of got out of it at that point. And you know, Mike was a quarter pipe rider and really good on my ramp, and he was bummed on the downtown thing. So I remember those guys saying, "Don't go downtown, dude." Yeah. You know, those guys will rip you off, and they're gonna make you do acid. I'm like, so what?
They're gonna make you do acid.
Like this shit like that.
That's the sort of shit that went downtown. Yeah. That went on downtown, though, man. We'd be like, fuck. I'm not gonna name names because I'm not as bad as you, but there would be people fucking huffing liquid paper.
Oh, I know.
Pam.
Yeah, it was crazy. I saw
there group sex.
Crazy, man.
In parkades.
Yeah.
Bushes. Dude, the stuff I did when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, you're going to hear all about it in the next few months, weeks, years on this podcast.
The time we caught you and those chicks on top of the Pemberton Parkade engaged in a lewd
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. It was Alex and Dave.
Yeah.
Alex and Dave.
And you were looking.
We were looking. We looked around the corner, and I said, "What did you remember? What I said? I said it's going in and out. I can see it. It's going in and out."
And we hung.
Okay, you know what, man? I gotta stop this. We are now We are coming up on.
Completion.
No,
time.
it's almost 2 hours, bro. We've killed 2 hours of us ranting and raving about skateboarding and growing up in Victoria, BC, Canada. We've talked about Go Skateboarding Day and all the things we did today, all the skate spots we rode today. I'm in so much pain, dude. I'm 46. You're 47.
I'm stiff to work.
I'm really sore, but you know what? We got rad.
For a living, I tattoo for a living. So every day, I don't play. Actually, I do. I started playing hockey again, so I got to get ready for hockey season.
Well, that's good for your wrists.
Yeah, not totally. I got to be careful. That's why I play beer league, so it's not hitting in that.
Oh, you're playing ice hockey?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, dude. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I thought I meant road hockey.
I play ice hockey.
It's like
again.
A fucking
That's
tennis
why I get
ball.
bummed. Like when I go down south, all the jocks are like, "Yeah, it's skate hockey time." It's like I don't want to play skate hockey, man. I play ice hockey. It's a beating, you know. It's like
that's just asking for being just picked on incessantly.
Yeah, but not anymore. No, I have fun. I play with a lot of the guys I used to play with. I play with Newman Shapours, with Angie's big brother. It's awesome. So.
All right, man. Yeah. We're gonna sign off here. This has been.
We'll be coming back to the second part.
We're gonna have to do another episode. We're gonna have to do another episode with Dustin. Thanks, bro, for being on the show. I had a great.
Me, Jacob.
I had a great day.
You guys, it's still not too late. It's I'm looking at my clock here in Canada, on the west coast of Canada. It's about 5:45. So you guys still got a bit of time to go get a bit of a carve in, man. It's National Skateboarding Day. Even if it just means like doing a boneless in your driveway or something, dude.
Yep.
Or just doing some rad shit.